Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Naruto caged bird seal. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. A small, 11-year-old child dressed in an orange baggy jumpsuit was walking slowly along the road, kicking some stray rocks with her feet along the way. The child had long spiky yellow sun-kissed hair tied in a messy bun at the base of her neck, making her spiky locks frame her face, hiding the loose knot at the back. Her blonde bangs were shadowing her face, outlining the three whisker-like marks on her rosy cheeks. She also had bright cerulean eyes that were sparkling with angry tears. She was walking with her hands in pockets, a frown plastered on her scarred face. Uzumaki Naruto, one who vowed never to cry, was crying, because she failed the stupid academy test again. Every year they put the stupid Bunshin no Jutsu, which was her worst. No matter how much she tried it, it never worked, never. She always passed the written exam, it was never the best, but she scraped enough points to pass. Same went for the practical. She didn't have a taijutsu style like her classmates Sasuke, Shino, Kiba, but she was fast and she went around the attacks, dodging them and giving unexpected blows. It worked on everyone except Kiba and Sasuke. Both of them were too good with taijutsu and they were faster than her. Uzumaki Naruto was a complete tomboy. She always got in fights, mainly with Uchiha. She dressed like a boy, loved orange, 'cause it was the best color, Ibeo. She never cared for her looks, mascara, hair, like a certain pinkhead and blonde who swooned over the last Uchiha. Honestly, she didn't even know what they saw in him. He was just a stuck-up prick with a huge ego, nothing more. But no, all the girls in their year saw him as some kind of a hero, PFFF. Well, no all, she had to hand it to her, the shy Hyuga girl wasn't like that, but still, she needed a huge boost of confidence for sure. And there was her, of course. The rest were all part of the huge Sasuke fan club, the leaders being Ino and Sakura. Currently she was passing by one of the training grounds. They were for ninja who had graduated, not for academy students. It was forbidden to enter there, but when had that ever stopped her? So cleaning her tears away with the back of her neon orange sleeve, the young girl marched to the training grounds, intending to do some training and improve her lame Bunshin. The training ground she had stumbled across was No. 7. She liked that number, it brought a strange feeling of being complete to her. When she walked absently through the trees, she saw something black up ahead. Curiosity taking over, she went for a closer look. It was a memorial stone with various names carved on it. She knew that she wasn't the sharpest kunai in the paunch, but even she knew that these were the names of the ones gone Mia, or those who died in action, in other words, heroes. To her that's what they were, true heroes, those who died protecting the leaf. She would protect it with her life too, she knew that. Her eyes searched the carved names, until she focused on one. Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage, her idol. He died a hero's death, saving the village from the nine-tailed demon fox. He was everything she wanted to achieve, and she was going to surpass him, Datbeo. She was going to be a Hokage, the best of them all. But then she remembered why she came to the training grounds in the first place. Oh yeah, the stupid Bunshin. Realization hit her with a bang. None of the Hokages failed graduation twice. And certainly none of them had trouble with a simple clone jutsu. Maybe she just plain sucked? No, hell no. She was going to prove to them all what Uzumaki Naruto was made of, Datbeo. Come on, what was a stupid Bunshin that she couldn't do? She will overcome it, no matter what. Okay, let's give it a try. I can do this, concentrate. She put her fingers in the ram seal and screwed her eyes shut. Blue chakra started to swirl around her in a maelstrom. And release. She let it out with a cry of, Bunshin no Jutsu. She sneaked a peek. A greenish, slightly dead-looking clone looked back at her and dissolved right by her feet. Her shoulders slumped. "You are overloading it with chakra, idiot," said a calm, cold voice. Naruto snapped her eyes back open and whirled around to glare at the person who said that. The person turned out to be a boy, probably her age or older. The first thing she noticed on him was the Konoha Hite 8 on his forehead. So he is a ninja. Maybe he graduated a year earlier? But I don't remember him. The next thing she noticed was the scowl on his face. Like he was mocking her. "Oh yeah, and how would you know?" she demanded rather rudely. The boy sighed. "I have a Kekkei Genkai that can see the chakra circulatory system, but I am not going to explain it to you. You should have known it from the academy. It just proves that it's fate that you are so stupid. Putting away her curiosity about what Kekkei Genkei was, and secretly not wanting so seem even more stupid to him, she glared at him harder and pointed an accusing finger at him. Oi bastard, stop calling me stupid. I am not. Besides, it's not my fault they hate me so much that they don't teach me. The last part was spoken in a whisper, but the boy heard it. Inwardly he frowned, while on the outside he didn't move a muscle. Sabotaging training? That's not like Konoha. Who is this kid? Naruto just sighed and put her finger back in the ram sign again. No giving up. What, can't you move somewhere else? I am practicing, she snapped at him. The only reaction she got was a raised eyebrow. You know, you, an academy student, are in a training ground meant for shinobi, those who graduated the academy. I on the other hand am a shinobi, so who do you think should be the one to go away? He replied casually, his arms crossed on his chest and eyes closed. A small smirk was playing on his face, like he had won or something. But Naruto was having none of that. Hey, try and make me get out of here, bastard. With that she made the hand seal and another dead clone popped up in front of her. She sighed and put her hands up to try again. Why do you try it over and over again when it's fated that you will never be able to do the bunshin? She turned to face him. He was still in the same position, only his eyes were open and showed anger. But Naruto noticed something deep down. Was it curiosity? Or maybe denial? She couldn't help but notice his eyes. They were pale lavender in color, pupil-less, but it didn't freak her out. She was used to such eyes. Yamanaka Ino had them. But the color, it reminded her of the shy blue-haired girl in her class. Maybe they are related or something? "'Cause it's my way of ninja, I never give up, never, no matter what it takes, I'll reach my goal. I'll become Hokage so that everyone will acknowledge me for who I am, so that I won't be hated anymore." He chucked. It sounded cold, too cold for her liking, making the hairs on her hand stuck up. She unconsciously took a step back. You? A Hokage? A no-name like you will never be a Hokage, it's fated. You can't change what's fated. Hokage become those who were born to be, but not you. You might not even graduate and become a ninja with that clone of yours. That made her blood boil. She saw red. The boy smirked and caught the fist aiming for his head with ease. You are a joke of a ninja, just give it up, it's your fate, he sneered. She just jerked her hand off and delivered a roundhouse kick on his head. He caught it too and twisting in an odd angle made her cry out in pain. Why do you fight against it? Because I can change my fate. No one tell me what my destiny is besides me. I will change it, I will not be hated for unknown reasons, I will become Hokage, and even if you defeat me now, I still won't give up. No matter what. Dat Bayo. He let her go. She slumped on the grass, but quickly stood up and took a rather sloppy stance. It was all she knew of taijutsu, and as she didn't have a NY family to teach her, she used the academy style. She knew she couldn't defeat him, she felt the power radiating from him, but she could always count her speed and, no, that didn't work the first time, she needed a new plan, and fast. She didn't even know why, but this guy irritated her more than the Uchiha Teme. He only ed when she declared her goals, but this bastard dared to say she wasn't fated to be a shinobi. Fate. Hey, what a load of crap. But to her slight shock that she couldn't hide, he didn't take a stance, he just stood there, looking at her like he was seeing her for the very first time. His eyes, the beautiful lavender jewels, were confused. I wonder why, what had happened to him? Fight fate? You actually think you can fight fate? One who is destined to be a dead last will always be a dead last, he shouted, eyes blazing with anger. Suddenly he was in front of her, glaring daggers at the poor girl, daring her to speak. But she was Uzumaki Naruto, she never gave up on her ideas. She stared right back, her eyes narrowed and her hands on her hips. And one who is fated to be a servant and carry a seal, all his life is fated to be just that, a slave. You cannot fight it. That's why you lost to me, it was fated, and that's why you will not graduate. It is fated. Naruto was taken aback by this. She didn't even know why she did it, but she put her hand on his shoulder in what she thought was a comforting manner and just looked at him, eyes radiating confusion. The boy jerked at first at the contact, but then relaxed. He sat down on the ground, leaning on the memorial stone and sighed, closing his eyes with his elbow. The blonde-haired girl followed suit and sat on the grass, hugging her legs close to her. I'll tell you the Hyuga destiny of hatred. The Hyuga main family has a special ninjutsu passed down. It's a Juinjutus cursed seal jutsu. Cursed seal? She repeated, puzzled. My uncle and my father were twins, born to the main clan head. The difference between their births was a minute. It was fated that my father would be braided with the Hyuga caged bird seal and become clan head of the branch clan. So he is related to the shy girl? She was Hyuga too, and wait, what seal? So you are related to Hinata? He looked at her, anger flooding him once again. Yes, he said curtly. She could see it was a painful subject to him to talk about, and he was sharing it with a total stranger. She felt bad for a bit, but then again, she had felt herself like that too, so. Hinata-sama is my cousin. She is the eldest daughter of Hiyashi-sama, my uncle. Wait, I don't get it, what seal? And why the hell is your clan divided into two? It's illogical, she complained, waving her arms around. When she looked back at him, his expression was solemn, even calm, like he had already decoded on his fate and didn't care anymore. She blushed and turned away, embarrassed. Gomenase Hyuga-san, I will not pry anymore. I can see it's a painful subject for you and… No, I will tell you. He slowly started to take off his headband. Naruto gasped. A green seal was imprinted on his forehead. This, he tied the hiat back, is the Hyuga caged bird seal. The curse of the mark represents a bird in a cage. It is the symbol of being tied to an inescapable destiny. It is designed for the Hyuga branch members. This seal is given to all branch house members in the Hyuga clan by members of the main house. Its main purpose is to seal our Byakugan ability when we die, preventing an enemy from learning its secrets. Its secondary purpose is to control the branch house, since it can be activated at will by a main house member with a hand seal only known by them. It destroys the wearer's brain cells. Naruto was speechless. She never knew that clans in Konoha were so cruel. And whatever the Byakugan was, it was something important, like a cool ability or something, so it was natural that they wanted to protect it, but this way? She couldn't comprehend it. Her mind was still working on it when the boy continued to speak. The seal is placed when the next main family member turns 3. When I was 4, I had this horrible seal carved in my forehead through that cursed seal jutsu. As you see, it was done to me, on Hinata-sama's birthday. But why do you need that seal? To distinguish the main and branch families? Why? Naruto screamed in frustration. It is not for decoration. The lavender-eyed boy spat, looking coldly at her. She shrank back. The cursed seal is the absolute fear of death given to the branch families by the main family. With a simple hand seal known only to the main family, the mind of the branch member can be destroyed easily. Death is just as easy, of course. And the cursed seal will disappear only after death, sealing up the ability of Byakugan forever. Naruto still didn't know what Byakugan was, but she had an idea that it was something very important, if the family went such measures to protect it. The day I was braided with the seal was also the day Konoha signed a treaty with Kumogakure no Sato. But we were betrayed. At night one of them tried to kidnap Hinata. Hiyashi-sama killed him on the spot. It turned out to be the ambassador himself. Kumo denied all of it, saying that Konoha killed their man for no reason. They demanded the body of Hyuga Hiyashi. Naruto gasped. His tone had turned bitter towards the end. But she kept silent. She felt it wasn't the best time to interrupt. They got the body they wanted, but it wasn't Hiyashi-sama, it was my father, Hyuga Hizashi. They were twins, and with him braided with the seal Kumo couldn't have the secrets of the Byakugan. Naruto sighed. My father was killed by the main family. The boy shouted, having the urge to ram his fist in the closest tree. You know, maybe it was his own decision, the blonde whispered. What? His face snapped to hers in an instant. She felt a bit uneasy under his gaze. Well, maybe he had decided to die, maybe, just maybe it was a way of freedom for him? You should go and ask your uncle, talk to him. No, I am not going to. But what if your father wanted you to be happy, be free, fight for your freedom? Just go and ask your uncle bastard, and don't blame Hinata, it wasn't her fault. If she hadn't been so weak then what? She was 3 for Kami's sake, 3. I had already mastered Byakugan when I was 3, so did her sister. You're so self-centered, you know that. She is a sweet girl, don't hurt her, you hear me? Or else what? He sneered. Next minute he found himself eating the grass, with the blonde seated on him, his own kunai pointed at his neck. Fast, I defeated you, a low-life nobody like Med defeated a genius like you. I can fight fate, it's TM you did too, and I am going to get the clone down, I am going to graduate and I sure as hell am going to be Hokage. Without another word she got up, dusted herself and left, leaving a confused Hyuga to ponder on everything that happened today. He came to one conclusion. The day was weird, very weird. Naruto huffed and growled as she crawled in her bed that day. The Hyuga boy had pissed her off. She was so frustrated that she didn't even dry her hair off after the shower. TCH, stupid idiotic bastard. Hope he at least got what I meant, and that seal. She shivered. Sure she might not meet the guy again, but the seal affected her. She even felt some sort of a connection with him, even if she herself couldn't quite explain it. She wanted to get rid of the seal, she knew that for sure. Well, it seemed that she needed a small trip to the library to find anything on seals, if there was. After all, she was still an academy student. She turned to lie on her stomach and tried to sleep. The face of the brunette Hyuga came popping in her mind again. She slapped a pillow over her head and groaned. Academy was over, she had 3 months of vacation before the last term started again. Last year, she sighed. She needed to get the Bunshin down, or else she would be thrown out of the ninja system. How will she become Hokage if it happened? Her frustration rose when she went to the library. It was only civilian stuff, no shinobi scrolls at all. Only theory and who needed it. And absolutely nothing on seals. So with nothing left to do, she marched to the same training ground again. TCH, Bushin Teme, you are so going down. Making the ram sign she screamed. Bunshin no jutsu. Chakras circled her again and a pop was heard. It was a clone, a dead one. Again, she groaned and screamed, muffling the sound in her arms. You are overloading it again, stupid. The voice surprised her and she jumped. Her stomach did a small flip and her cheeks turned pink. He was there, casually leaning on one of the trees, eyes closed, arms crossed and a small smirk on his face. Again. You again? How the hell do you know? And what are you doing here? Don't you have your own team or something? And why the hell are you looking at me like that? Why? She found a hand over her mouth, stopping her rumbling. He sighed. Well, I talked to my uncle about it, and you, he started, then paused, seemingly unable to continue. She raised her eyebrows. You were right. He admitted, it was my father's choice, he told me to fight in a last letter. Thank you for making me see. The blonde smiled, it was visible by the way her eyes crinkled upwards. It felt nice to know she helped him, sort of like he needed her. And I know because I have the Byakugan, I am training here, besides I wanted to talk to you, yes, I have a team. But the training starts only in a few hours, so do the missions, and I am not looking at you. He huffed and looked away, trying to hide his reddening cheeks. Huh? Why is he all red? Do all Hyuga turn red around me? Naruto thought it might be her imagination, so she just shrugged it off, but the small butterflies in her stomach were making it a bit hard for her. What's wrong with me? She looked him over. She had to admit, he was cute. His long brown hair that cascaded down to his lower back. Hey, mine is longer dat bayo. He was dressed in a white shirt and shorts with bandages going up his right hand and left leg. He had a sharp chin, and the smirk on his heart-shaped face was gorgeous, she had to admit it. But the most amazing were his eyes, those pools of lavender that were currently laughing at her visibly reddening face. She quickly composed herself and stomped on his foot, hard. Jerking his hand back, he let her breathe again. Ouch, grumbled the stoic Hyuga, not meeting her eyes. She was doubled over, laughing. When she composed her face again and he faced her, she asked the first thing that popped in her mind. Anyo, so what's Byakugan? There was only one thing that crossed the mind of the Hyuga genius Neji as he lay on his bed, trying to get some sleep. Kami knew he needed it, and needed it now. This day was very weird, by all standards. To understand the predicament that the young boy had found himself in, let's make a short trip to the past, namely the morning of that fateful day. It was a very warm morning in Konohagakure no Sato, very quiet and peaceful. Unless you counted the racket that was in the academy at that point. The newly graduated bunch on kids were all yelling in happiness, swooning over him. Sigh, he needed to do something about that fan club of his. With hearts in their eyes. He never figure how they even graduated in the first place. They will never survive the cruel world of shinobi with that attitude. He calmly went over to sit at the very back and quietly observe everyone present. There were a lot of kids, in his opinion, too much. None of them were fated to be shinobi. His eyes fell on a boy dressed in a white kimono-type top, his braided jet black hair waving back and forth as he told his comrades that he passed with unhidden enthusiasm. To say Neji was surprised was an understatement. This boy was Rock Lee, the dead last of the lot. He couldn't do any ninjutsu or genjutsu at all. His brainpower wasn't that strong and he was average in taijutsu, nothing more. In other words, a dropout, useless kid who would only get in the way on missions. How the hell did he even graduate? But the proof of his graduation was glittering on his forehead. The Konoha Hite 8, a metal plate with the symbol of leaf engraved upon it, kept with a dark blue cloth. He turned away. The blinding light coming from his toothy grin could blind him, who knows. His eyes turned to the only female of the group who didn't swoon over him, even if he had a fleeting suspicion that she had a crush on him. It's not like he cared for females, they were useless in his opinion. Besides, he doubted he would meet a female that will catch his attention. In the classroom on the floor above, where students a year younger were having their own exams, a blonde sneezed. Higurashi Tenten, a tomboy who was obsessed with everything traditional and weapons. She was probably one of the few, besides him of course, that deserved to be a shinobi. "Quiet down," yelled a voice. It was their sensei, who had just arrived. The plump man sighed and started a very long talk about the meaning and responsibility of being shinobi, of the dangers and of the ties one should have to survive. He scoffed. Ties? They who aren't fated to survive will not. Nothing can change that, no matter how they train and who they end up with. He of course, like many who came from shinobi families, knew that they would be placed in a three-man cell, a team. A team which will only get in the way of successfully completing missions. He was not pleased by it, but he accepted it. His father used to tell him stories of his own genin team, and how fun it was. Neji doubted it would be fun if he ended with this particular bunch. He sighed and tuned off the chubby sensei as he started to say the teams. He would probably end up with Lee anyway, since he was dead last. It was no secret to him that the Rookie of the Year had the dead last. All the teams were balanced either by power levels or by team types. His team was going to be a combat team, he knew it was, after all, destined to be. Team 9, Hyuga Neji, Higurashi Tenten and Rock Lee. He sighed. Typical. But then again, it is better than to get one of the fangirls. All the students waited for their respective senseis. If only Neji knew exactly how weird his day was going to end, he might have ran, and he nearly did, out of fear to be around the man that had just entered the building. Dynamic entrance. Boomed a voice and a green something landed in front of them. Tenten blanched and leaned back, as far away as possible from the green something. So did Neji, but he composed his face before anyone noticed. Lee, however, was bouncing. Gay-sensei. You're our sensei? Yosh. He was about to jump and hug the man when he took a serious stance and said in a deep voice to follow him. Neji sighed and with slumped shoulders followed him along with a doubting Tenten and an overexcited Lee. They had their introductions, during which Tenten proved to be a true kunoichi. She wanted to be like Tsunade. Not like she will ever manage it, but it still was much better than fangirlism. And Lee, he wanted to be a taijutsu master. He didn't believe he could do it, but nothing he said made the boy go down. Instead he proclaimed him as his eternal rival. If only he knew it will end like that, he would have kept his mouth shut. Lee was already sprouting nonsense about flames of youth. He never knew genin tended to have the same quirks as their senseis in such a short span of knowing them. Lee had seen the man only once, when after training the henge he couldn't mold chakra. The man had come to him and told him never to give up. But it was only that, nothing more. They were soon interrupted by a yell from the green sensei. Kakashi, my dear friend, have you come for another challenge? They whirled around to find a very peculiar sight. It was a Junin with gravity-defying silver hair. The only facial feature that was seen was the bored gray eye that was focused on the little orange book. The same book he had seen in the bookstore. It was porn. He tried not to glare. Did you say something? Came the causal answer. They looked back at their sensei, whose face was boiling with anger. After that came the explanation. It seemed that this man was Hitaki Kakashi, the eternal rival of Mitogai. They always had challenges. Currently it was 28 to 29. the silver-haired man was winning, so he got to choose. The choice turned out to be Jan Ken Pon. And Hitaki won, but their sulking sensei brightened and proceeded to run laps around Konoha using his hands. He left 3 bewildered genin behind, one thinking that he was crazy, one cursing fate, and one thinking he's a genius. Hyuga Neji left after that, pondering on his predicament and thinking what would his father say. His feet carried him to Training Ground 7, namely to the Memorial Stone. He stared for a long time at the name of his father before he felt someone approaching him. He quickly took a few steps back and leaned on the tree facing the stone. It was a blonde child, no height could be seen, so the child was an academy student. He took a closer look. It was a girl, a very beautiful girl. His eyes widened at this thought and he mentally slapped himself. But he had to admit it as he looked from her eyes, cerulean blue, clearer than the sky, to the sun-kissed yellow hair that framed her face. It seemed to be tied in a bun that many couldn't see from the mane of golden curls. But he was Hyuga Neji, he noticed things many didn't. He noticed that she most probably had a petite small figure under the overly, his eyes squinted, orange baggy jumpsuit. He noticed the peculiar whisker marks on her cheeks. Interesting. Is that a clan trait? He was taken aback when she started muttering furiously under her breath while looking at the names on the stone. She then tried to make a clone. He snorted, albeit quietly. She put too much chakra in it. But no one, especially not an academy student, should have so much chakra. It was nearly as much as Hiyashi-sama has. But she couldn't do it. He saw her try again and again, still she overloaded it every single time. Finally he snapped. "You are overloading it with chakra, idiot," he said in a calm, cold voice. She whirled around angrily at him. He was taken aback at her beauty, but those thoughts left him as soon as she opened her mouth. Needless to say, the argument was very heated. She even dared to call him a bastard a few times. How dare she? He didn't even know why he bothered, but he told her everything. Of the cursed seal, of his fate, of his father's hate, of the kidnapping of Hinata. He never told anyone about that. He always kept it all bottled inside, and now he was letting it all out on this girl he hardly knew of. And she took it all. She even defeated him in the end, proving that fate wasn't written on a scroll. It could be fought and changed. But damn, she was fast. After that, and with a last, "I defeated you. A lowlife nobody like Med defeated a genius like you. I can fight fate, it's TM you did too, and I am going to get the clone down, I am going to graduate, and I sure as hell am going to be Hokage." She stomped off there, head held high, leaving a very confused Hyuga. What a weird day. It went weirder. When he reached home, he decided to do as the blonde told him, go and talk with his uncle. He didn't even know why he listened to that orange brat. Who the hell was she to tell her what to do? Hell no, he was Hyuga Neji. No female could order him around. He knocked on a wooden door, kneeling. "Yes? May I come in, Hiyashi-sama?" So now the young boy was trying to get the sleep he so desperately wanted. But the blonde-haired girl kept popping up in his mind. She was right. He had found out the truth of what really happened that night. It really was his father's choice. He wanted to die, for his family, for his brother. It was all explained in the scroll Father, Hyuga Hazashi, had given him. He sighed. A few tears escaped his eyes. He quickly cleared them away with the back of his hand. He will need to apologize to Hinata the next day. And he had team training too, some sort of a test. Higurashi Tenten, a girl who lost her mother during the Kyuubi attack and the only daughter of Higurashi Akira, the owner of the best weapons store in all Konoha. She will become a weapons mistress, he knew that for sure, and Rock Lee. He will excel at taijutsu. But he will never beat him. Hyuga Neji, genius of the Hyuga clan, a prodigy, whose Byakugan id far more developed than that of any youngsters in the clan. Now that he thought of it, they would make a fine team after all. Just please, Kami, don't let Gay Sensei corrupt them. And the small blonde girl that opened his eyes. He still remembered how he couldn't take his eyes off her face when he in a burst of anger had grabbed her and peered at her, scowling. The effect was lost due to her eyes. He sighed and ruled over trying to get the image of the blonde angel, Peef, more like a devil, from his mind. It was a hard task to do. Damn blondes and their beautiful eyes. Wait, what? Get a grip on yourself. You are Hyuga Neji, you do not look at girls or think of them like that. It was a truly very troublesome day after all. A young boy with his brown hair shaped like a pineapple sneezed in his sleep. Next morning, before the training with his team began, the young Hyuga went to the training grounds again. To train, and just breathe fresh air, and not look for a blonde girl that might be there. Surely not. His stoic expression turned to a smile when he saw her again. She was practicing the Bunshin again. And failing. Bunshin no Jutsu. Chakras circled her again and a pop was heard. It was a clone, a dead one. Again, he saw her groan and scream, muffling the sound in her arms. It was very amusing to watch. A small smirk playing on his lips, he casually said, "You are overloading it again, stupid." He could see that he had surprised her, for she jumped and blushed slightly when she caught sight of him. This made a brow rise. Why is she all red? Is she sick? You again? How the hell do you know? And what are you doing here? Don't you have your own team or something? And why the hell are you looking at me like that? Why? He quickly moved forward and covered her mouth with his hand. He couldn't help but notice that he kind of liked the touch. Her eye was twitching. He sighed. Well, I talked to my uncle about it, and you, truly he didn't want to admit it, but he felt that she deserved to know. She raised her eyebrows. You were right, he admitted, it was my father's choice, he told me to fight in a last letter. Thank you for making me see. The blonde smiled, it was visible by the way her eyes crinkled upwards. And I know because I have the Byakugan, I am training here, besides I wanted to talk to you, yes, I have a team. But the training starts only in a few hours, so do the missions, and I am not looking at you. His cheeks flushed for a second at that. He refused to believe that this blonde girl caught his attention. No, but that didn't stop the reddening of his cheeks. Seeing that she was about to notice, he composed himself and looked at her. She was staring at him, from head to foot, as thought analyzing him. This made him blush a darker shade. Could it be? No. Stop thinking of that, Hyuga Neji, it's inappropriate. You are in a presence of a lady. Well, he doubted calling her a lady was accurate. She was a tomboy after all, but he had some manners drilled into him by his father and later his uncle. It was one of the main unspoken rules of the Hyuga clan. It was then that he noticed the deep blush covering her face, one half of the face, since he had the other half still covered with his hand. He couldn't take it, he laughed silently. She was so fun to tease, and he had very little fun in his life. Suddenly he felt pain shoot through his foot. Ouch! Apparently she had stomped on it. He jerked his hand back and turned to rub the sore spot. Ouch! Anyo, so what's Byakugan? Now he really couldn't control it, he laughed out of pure joy, for no reason at all, and he liked it. A year later. Damn it, where is she? We must catch that brat. There, no, wait, there? A young figure clad in orange laughed in glee from her hiding place. It was really funny how those Chunin and Junin couldn't catch her. Well, she was naturally fast, but that didn't matter. She rubbed her hands together, a foxy grin crawling on her face. And then they say that orange is too bright, and that I will be killed instantly. Peef, dat bayo. She fondly petted her orange jacket, which was unzipped at this moment. No one messed with orange anyway. She brought her right hand to her forehead, and squinting her cerulean eyes, grinned at her master prank. The pain was so bright, and she had randomly splattered it across the faces. All in red, yellow and orange. The colors suited the Hokages. That was what she thought. And this was Uzumaki Naruto, what she thought was right. And this was the reason why she was being chased. Not that they could catch her. She hopped from a building and blended to the opposite wall, using the simplest illusion juts that even she could do. The crown of the noisy shinobi ran past her, still looking for the orange brat. She snickered. Then it turned to full-blown laughter. There you are, Naruto. The girl shrieked and turned to face a pissed-off scarred Chunin. Again? How in the name of Hashirama's left? Not even wanting to finish that thought, the blonde slowly backed away. A hand grabbed her ankle and she went crashing to the ground. Itai, what did you do this time, Naruto? Quote, said blonde huffed and stayed silent. Not that it took a long time for Iruka to figure out what exactly she had done. TCH. Why does he always catch me? She found herself tied up and unceremoniously dumped in front of the classroom. The children erupted in laughter. Naruto's cheeks went tomato red in embarrassment, and she looked away, pouting. Amino Iruka rubbed his temples and cleared his throat. It didn't help. A tick appeared on his forehead and he decided to use the most lethal weapon of any academy teacher. The big head no jutsu. Shut the hell up. Silence. After Iruka controlled his harsh breathing into a calm flow again, he announced. Now that Naruto here was kind enough to join us, we will review the Henge no Jutsu. Groans filled the room. All the students were glaring up at the girl, who wasn't exactly happy herself. After untying Naruto, Iruka made them stand in a line. The girl in front of her, Yamanaka Ino, turned around and glared at her. This is all your fault, Naruto. Said girl chose to ignore this. Instead, she decided on a prank. Right. I'll use that jutsu. Hehehehe. She laughed evilly, making Shikamaru Nara and Uchiha Sasuke raise eyebrows at her, the latter though, unnoticed. Haruno Sakura, came Iruka's voice. A pink-haired girl, with a red ribbon tied like a headband on top of her head came forward. She was dressed in all red and had a weird spiral-like sign etched on the fabric. Maybe it's a clan? But Sakura-chan is from a civilian family, right? Hehe, weird parents then, naming a kid with pink hair Sakura. If they were alive, a certain redhead and a certain blonde would have sneezed. Deep inside a dark sewer, a red eye opened and a snort escaped the being. Right anyways, the jutsu, no wait, Neji will kill me if he finds out, but this is my class, and he is on a mission, so no harm done. Yush, now then. She focused her eyes on Uchiha Sasuke as he stepped forward and did a flawless transformation into the Sandane. He really was good, no wonder he was called a prodigy. As Naruto watched him, she remembered how she used to want to be like him, just as cool, just as acknowledged. She had declared him her rival till death. When he had lost his clan, she understood his pain, at least she thought she did. And the day, when she was walking alone, seeing him on the edge of the river, alone made her feel sad. She wanted to make him smile for some reason. She remembered the full smile she had given him, before glaring of course, and the small, hesitant ghost of a smile she had received back. From that day on, she always considered him a friend. Sure, he was a jerk who had a stick up his ass, but he noticed her, and in a way, she felt connected to him. She remembered their every spar, and that he always won. She growled, "Just you wait, Uchiha Sasuke, one day, I'll definitely defeat you." She even forgot that she was the dead last of the whole group. "Yuto, Naruto, pay attention, and come up here," yelled Iruka. The blonde snapped back to reality and confidentially walked to the middle of the classroom, a smirk adoring her face. She stole another glance at her rival, her eyes daring him to see how awesome she was. But the smirk her sent her way chilled her to the bone. And his eyes? What the hell was wrong with them? Quit staring, Uteme. Huffing, she faced Iruka, and with a foxish grin that made the Chunin dread what was coming, disappeared in a cloud of smoke. When it cleared, it showed a girl, naked, who looked like a much older version of Naruto herself, clouds covering her assets. Blood sprouted from the nose of the instructor and he was sent flying into the wall. With a pop, the blonde transformed back to herself and pumped her fist in the air with a triumphant, "Yada." She turned around and sweat dropped. Nearly all the guys were drooling, except Choji, who was always focused on his beloved chips, Shino. Well, you couldn't tell, he always covered his face, and Shikamaru, who was sitting there with a troublesome expression on his face. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the usually emotionless Uchiha, who was covering his nose and his cheeks were pink. The Jinchuriki started laughing, pointedly staring at Sasuke with mirth-filled eyes. Said boy glared at her and turned around, hurriedly running his sleeve over his face. Who knew the Uchiha could forget that he was the noble part of Konoha? Or that the last Uchiha was a hidden pervert? The blonde stopped laughing when she felt a tap on her shoulder. Her instinct was telling her to run for it. But she was an Uzumaki databane. Uzumaki fear nothing, except a very angry Sakura, and the fan club behind her. Naruto laughed nervously and looked around for an escape. Amino Iruka woke up 10 minutes later, to find his blonde student in a bloody heap on the floor. He sighed. "You are not going home until you finish cleaning this mess," stated the Chunin, rubbing a thumb across his scar. Naruto, who was scrubbing the paint off the first Hokage's nose, just glared at him. Not like anyone's waiting for me, so who cares?" she muttered under her breath angrily. "When will Neji be back?" "HMPH, going away on for a few days." "So what if it's AC rank?" The Chunin heard it. "Well, how about this? You finish this fast, and I treat you to ramen. he suggested quietly, watching the blonde tense. Did I say something wrong? But Naruto turned around, giving him a huge grin. Now that's what I call motivation. I'll be done in 5 Iruka-sensei, she yelled and started scrubbing with double speed. Said sensei's sweat dropped and shook his head, smiling slightly. Said smile didn't stay long, but the girl didn't notice. He was just an academy teacher. He never got much of a salary. And now, everything was gone. He watched in horror as the bottomless blonde consumed another bowl in one go. He had never seen anyone eat like that. Especially ramen. Naruto, however, was beaming. He felt a tug at his heart, but locked it away quickly. Naruto, why did you do that? Don't you know who the Hokage are? He asked, peering sideways at her. She nodded and slurped the noodles. Of course I know. They are the strongest shinobi in Konoha. All of them were strong and respected. I especially like Yondaime. He was a hero, with saving the village from the demon fox and all. I want to be like him. I painted the monument so that people will remember. One day, my own face will be there too. Datbeo, she took a deep breath, and leaned back from the chair, eyeing the monument. The Yondaime was her comfort. She always liked going to sit on his head, she felt calm, and somewhat loved there, thought she didn't know why. That helped her go through the pain, the glares. They didn't beat her up, but being thrown out of shops wasn't exactly painless. She smiled softly, her eyes gleaming with determination. Just you watch, Yondaime Hokage, I will become the Rokudame. Why Rokudame? Came a confused voice. Oops, I said that aloud? She gaped at him. After his nod, she rubbed the back of her head sheepishly. I really don't know Iruka-sensei, I just want to be the Rokudame. Not the Godem. She dug her chopsticks into the bowl, but realized there was nothing there. Iruka watched amusedly as she glared at it. He folded his hands under his head and said in a monotone. None of the Hokage failed the genin test twice. You know it's tomorrow, right? You didn't forget? Iruka-sensei. Came an indignant yell from the short blonde, who had temporarily forgotten her ramen. I haven't. I will pass, just you wait, it will be my first step. She smirked, then put her most lethal weapon to use. Puppy eyes no jutsu. W. What do you want, Naruto? The girl had her hands together, and was peering up at him with the cutest expression ever. Found only on cats, except Tora, and Konohamaru. Anyo, can I try on your headband? Iruka laughed, scratching his scar. No, this. He pointed at the Hiid, is a mark of a ninja who graduated. You will have your own when you graduate too. He ruffled her hair, but stopped after a few minutes. I want more ramen please. She sure knows how to get revenge. If anyone would have been on the southern side of Konoha at 9 p.m., they would have seen a jonin, hair in a spiky short ponytail, shoulders slumped, walking along the deserted road and muttering about blonde brats who waited all his money. Naruto had ran off from Ichiraku's, yelling over her shoulder that she had to catch some sleep. Iruka believed it. The girl watched him leave, a sigh escaped her. Now, back to business. Off to the library. She knew it was already late, but this was something she had to do. Thus she slowly broke into a run. As she rounded in a corner, she saw it. A huge red building, carefully guarded by some seals. Only shinobi could enter, and even they had to be supervised on what they take. Plus it wasn't like anyone could just come in and take what they want. In this library were the general things, like theory. You couldn't find any jutsu here even if you searched it for your whole life. That was what Neji had told her the next day of their fateful meeting. Naruto hit herself lightly on the head. Fateful? I am starting to sound like Neji, Ibeo. She remembered asking him what was Byakugan. And he had laughed. Naruto had kicked him in the shins for it. Not that it connected, for she was sent flying headfirst into the bushes, but that didn't matter. After a few minutes of trying to calm down and not murder the smirking boy, Naruto had opted for sitting silently on the grass and listening to him. Needless to say she was fascinated. Neji had not only explained her what Kekkei Genkei were, but also showed her his Byakugan. She would never admit it, but she liked it, it made him more mysterious. Then she had pestered him about other Kekkei Genkei he knew. Thus she learned of the Sarinen, and that Sasuke Teme had it, but it was still unlocked. Also the Rinnegan, but since Neji didn't know much of it, she didn't learn much either. That day, before going home, Neji had shown her the library, explained that it was only for theory, but that was all she needed for her Bunshin to be normal. He had entered, leaving her alone for a few minutes. When he had come back, he had stuffed a few books in her hands. Chakra and its types. History of the Hidden Continents. Konohagakure no Sato. She had sputtered about knowing this from the academy and not needing it, but a look from his had stopped her. She didn't even know why she was listening to this jerk at all. And the bingo book, latest edition. When Naruto had asked where he had gotten that one, he turned pink and mumbled something about idiotic supervisors who didn't even look who entered the Anbu section. Naruto was impressed. After that they hurriedly left, and Naruto started her studying. Little did she know that Neji had a few books of his own taken out from the Anbu section. He was, after all, planning an investigation of his own, regarding the fact that Konoha was sabotaging the training of one of their potential ninjas. So here she was, standing in front of the library, her mind resolved. It wasn't for her cage bunshin, no, she was here for another reason. She wanted to help Neji the moment she heard about the seal. And she wanted to remove it somehow. So, on the same night Neji had shown her the library, she had snuck in it from a secret underground trapdoor, concealed by grass and ivy. She had found it by accident, when a stray cat had been looking at her. She had backed away till she hit the wall, and fell right into the small opening. This was a hidden section of the library, not even Neji knew of it. She knew one thing, it was small, and dark, and no one had been there for a very long time. She remembered having a coughing fit, for when she landed on her backside, dust raised from the ground. Black markings were around the only door leading into the room from the inside of the library. So this is a seal? That's why no one got in? Sugoi, seals are so cool. In her excitement of finding something no one else had, she didn't realize the same markings were on the trapdoor from which fell through, or that her finger was bleeding. This was where she was headed now. The blonde girl looked around her. No one was in sight. Stealthily, she sneaked to the trapdoor, and biting her thumb, smeared some dark red liquid over it. The markings glowed. She pushed the doors open and jumped in. She heard the markings resealing themselves. After her first visit here, she had found out that this room contained all the information Konohagakure had on sealing. Looking through the smallest scrolls, deeming him the beginner's level, Naruto had found where to start. It was a small scroll, explaining what Fuinjutsu was and the types of it in general. That was how she knew that the room was protected by a blood seal. Of course, she had wondered why her blood of all the people opened it, but she doubted she would find an answer to it, so she just shrugged it off. Since that day, along with the scrolls Neji had given her, she had started on Fuinjutsu. Only a year had passed, and Naruto could only craft the basics, like a small storage seal, or an exploding tag. She was very proud of her achievements though, for the scroll explained that Fuinjutsu was very complex, and many Junin and Kage didn't know anything beyond the basics. Naruto carefully walked to the very end of the room, where a small collection of scrolls was stacked. She had done this to have some order in the room. The scrolls had been scattered wildly all around when she had first came. Carefully she took out a scroll from her pocket, and placed it back to the shelf, then picked a few and opened them, her eyes scanning the contents. She deemed the first one she took was the continuation, so she pocketed it. When she was about to leave, a small notebook caught her eye. It was buried beneath a pile of huge scrolls and only the tip was seen. Naruto stared at it for a few moments, debating whether to take it or not. Her curiosity overpowered, again, and she quickly dug it out. Her eyes widened. Sugoi? A few minutes later, unseen by anyone except the nature of Konohagakure no Sato, a small, blonde girl, dressed in an orange jumpsuit was running along the streets. If anyone looked closer, they would have seen the excited look in her eyes. Uzumaki Naruto was nervous. No, scratch that, she was panicking. Currently she was hitting her head hard on the desk, waiting for her doom. She had passed the written exam, after all the reading Neji made her do, and she would never admit it to him, but she had enjoyed that book on history, she had even developed a habit of rereading it. The Hyuga was very surprised when she had declared to him that she was keeping the book and he must go prolong the time he could keep it. This had earned her a glare and a hidden proud look. She had gotten a good mark in taijutsu. They had to show the kata, and her weapon throwing skills were just as good as Sasuke's. But now, it was the time for the ninjutsu exam, and Kiba had said it was a bunshin again, thus bringing her to the state she was now. She had stayed up all night, reading the notebook, engrossed into it. And she hadn't practiced her bunshin. Nothing she did helped her make a normal one. And Neji always said she was overloading it with humongous chakra every single time. After reading the book on chakras, she understood that she had a lot of chakra wonder from where, no one my age is that much, Ibeo. Neji had suggested simplest chakra control. She would have to fill a leaf with chakra without letting it burn to a crisp. When he showed her what happened with his leaf when he filled it with chakra, her eyes went wide like saucers. It was slightly damp, and she could even feel the water moving there. She wanted the same effect. But her leaf always burned to a crisp, and faster than anyone could imagine. Though, her leaf also splinched into a lot of pieces too. There were many times she cut her own fingers with it. She had remembered reading a bit about elemental manipulation, seems that was what was happening. She had asked Neji, and Hyuga had confirmed it. It seemed she had wind-based chakra, but it was much too soon to even try to control it. Why not? You can control yours, Ibeo. That's right, but I was trained in chakra control since I was 2 years old, HMPH. They never really agreed on training with each other, or rather, Neji helping her, but they kind of met every day at the same time they met that fated day, and at the same place. It became a routine, and when Neji was away on missions, Naruto practiced alone, a smile returning to her face only when the Hyuga prodigy comes back safe and sound. He never taught her his taijutsu. It was forbidden, and he didn't want to. His pride wouldn't let him, plus one needed to have the Byakugan. Naruto didn't want another style either, but she made him agree to sparring with her, so that she will find her own style. They had spent months on it, thinking up ways, and finally decided to play on her speed. In crazing it was important as well. That was why a green-clad Junin found a blonde girl doing laps around Konoha every morning. Naruto would never forget the day she met that freaky green caterpillar eyebrows monster. Neji had to calm down the hysterical girl, while laughing himself. That was his sensei after all. Naruto had vowed the same day never to get a weird sensei. A certain silver-haired Junin had sneezed, resulting in him tripping on Torah, and his precious book being torn by claws. His howls even reached the academy, where everyone thought someone was torturing a poor dog. Another white-haired man had sneezed, making all the women in the bathhouse shriek. He had been found beaten to a bloody pulp and dumped on the street by the garbage later. A small toad had also sneezed, resulting in Elder Toad to making a prophesy that this day was destined and he would meet a cunning fox one day, who would turn his life around. Fukasaku hadn't been happy that day. And far, far away, in Kumogakure no Sato, a Jinchuriki sneezed, ruining all his rap notes and taking it out on his team. Kamui had sworn to beat the one who caused the incident to a bloody pulp. Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto's head shot up. Well, this is it, Kami help me, Datbeo. Willing the shaking to go away, Uzumaki Naruto entered the room. There was a desk, behind which sat Iruka and Mizuki, a silver-haired Chunin, who sneered openly at the sight of her. The girl ignored this. After all, it was a common occurrence, nothing new. I can do this, Datbeo. Perform the bunshin no just you, Naruto, said Iruka kindly, pinching his nose with a pencil. The blonde took a deep breath and put her hands in a ram seal. She closed her eyes and concentrated on her chakra. She felt it whirling around in utter chaos. Little amount, wait, I need less. And, release. Bunshin no jutsu. She screamed and disappeared in a puff of smoke. Cautiously she peered. Her face fell. On the ground were 2 sickly-looking clones, all dead. Mizuki cleared his throat. Well, she did create 2 clones, Iruka, and she has a passing grade in everything else. We could pass her. Naruto looked at the scarred Chunin in hope, not noticing the evil glint in the eyes of the other. Iruka sighed. No, we cannot. The clone is crucial. If she fails it, then she doesn't pass. I am sorry, Naruto. But said girl was already out of the room. Again, she found herself walking along a familiar path to Training Ground 7. Her feet were unconsciously taking her to the place she felt safe. She tried hard not to cry, but the tears stung her eyes. This had been her last try after all. She couldn't be a ninja anymore. She was a failure. And after all the training I went through. How will I look in his eyes? What will he say? Damn it. She punched a tree, ignoring the fact that it tore the delicate skin on her knuckles. She punched it with all her might, leaving dents, her salty tears falling on the ground in a mocking manner, showing her how weak she was. Soon, after strength left her, she slumped on the ground, hands still on the tree, not knowing where to go and what to do. It seemed like something was taken away from her. So what if I can't do a bunshin? Stupid bunshin. Who needs it anyway, she sniffed. Neji was supposed to be back from that C rank today. I can't let him see me, not now. With that, she fled the training ground. She never knew that Neji had come back early, and he had been waiting for her here. But when he saw the state she was in, he decided just to observe. It pained him to see that she failed. He had seen her strength, and he no longer believed in fate, but this was absurd. He sighed, rubbing his forehead. The sight of her crying and injuring herself on purpose clawed at his heart. He gripped his chest in wonder and confusion. He didn't know why it was like that, but he knew one thing. He never wanted to see her hurt again, he never wanted to see her tears. Only her smiling face, full of joy. Silently, he followed her. He had to make sure she didn't hurt herself more. After sensing her chakra, which wasn't hard, as she never really repressed it, he ran off at full speed, not really understanding why he was doing this at all. Sure, Naruto had become his friend, but so were Lee and Tenten, but he never felt this nervous or worried. Lee was injured during the mission, and even then he didn't worry as much as he did now. What made her different then? He shook his head, trying to focus, and sped up. He found her slumped on the swing outside of the academy. All the other parents were congratulating their children on graduating, being hugged and kissed. And the look in her eyes told him clearly she wanted that too. Look, it's that child, she is the only one who didn't graduate. I am glad she didn't, if that thing became a shinobi. Yes, that demon. Shush, don't you remember? It's forbidden. Neji's eyes hardened at the conversation those two civilian women had just had. What in the world, demon? And what's forbidden? Naruto? He turned to look at her. But to his great surprise, the academy teacher, Mizuki, was there with her. What's going on? He followed them to the roof, and concealing his chakra, stealthily hid behind a pillar. Naruto was sitting near the roof, feet dangling and head low. Mizuki was staring ahead, smiling. He had never seen a smile so fake. Something's not right, he is suspicious. Don't be too angry at Iruka for failing you. He was right, you know. Hi, you know what? There is another way to graduate. It's a small mission, are you interested? Neji watched the man smile like a snake. Naruto, however, turned to him with big eyes. Really? Don't be an idiot. Think, there is no other way of graduating. He is lying. Stop being an idiot, Neji thought, eyebrows furrowed and eyes hardened, staring at Mizuki. Yes, you simply have to take the scroll of sealing from the Hokage Tower and learn a jutsu from it. What? He wants her to steal it? Naruto? He watched her expression. It was perplexed, somewhat relieved and confused. But Neji noticed something else as well. Her eyes, they were wary of the Chunin. So she noticed something is off. Good. The Hyuga stayed silent while watching the rest of the exchange. Mizuki had explained where exactly that scroll was and even told her the time to do it. Naruto agreed, then left. Neji, however, stayed there for a long time, pondering. When the time would come, he would simply follow Naruto. He just hoped she would tell the Hokage. There was no way a genin would be able to get to the safely guarded library in the tower. Even someone as good as Naruto, who was an expert of sneaking in. The brunette boy sat there, arms crossed, and staring at his hands. He had promised himself to find out why was Konoha treating one of their own so bad. And he had come to some conclusions. She was hated by most of the civilians and most of the Chunin and under. No one spoke of the reason why. He recalled the earlier conversation he witnessed. Maybe there was a law about not speaking of it? Who knew? Naruto seemed not to care about the glares and various remarks, but Neji knew better. That was facade, along with the jumpsuit. She only wanted to be recognized. Thus the pranks. But why was all this happening to her? His father never spoke ill of her, nor did his uncle. In fact, the few times he had seen Naruto with his father, he would always have a weird look on his face, and Neji couldn't guess what it was. And that was saying something, as Neji could read people by their expressions. All but that one, an expression he found on the face of his uncle when he asked him about the blonde. He never received an explanation. He groaned. It's already getting dark, she must have started with the plan already. I need some painkillers. I feel a headache coming up. He stood up, and formed a hand seal. Byakugan. Locating the familiar chakra, which was already heading to the Hokage Tower, he quickly followed. To his unconcealed amazement, his jaw had dropped. Naruto had managed to steal the scroll, which, he had to hand it to her, was twice bigger and thicker than her. She had a triumphant grin on her face, with a hint of mischief. No way, the Hokage must have known someone broke in. Are you telling me she did something to defeat the Hokage? Shaking his head in wonder, he followed her into the forest. She was already sitting on the grass, and the scroll was laying wide open in front of her. Neji hid behind a tree and watched. He saw her grunt, and her eyes widen. Did she recognize something? But it's the scroll of sealing. What could? He saw her taking out a small scroll. But he couldn't fathom why she needed it. He had no idea what she was doing there with it, but after a few minutes, the small scroll was nowhere in sight, and the blonde had started to learn a jutsu. The Hyuga facepalmed, but stayed there nonetheless. It seemed to be a clone jutsu. A snort escaped his lips as he watched the girl have a small tantrum about it always being a stupid bunchin and who needed them. She really is weird, and funny. He was surprised that after her first try, she had already created 10 clones. He activated his Byakugan, eyes narrowed. Just as I thought. I can't decipher which is a fake and which is the real, so this is the famed Cage Bunchin. After 20 or so minutes, Iruka arrived. What's he doing here? Finally found you, Naruto. What do you think you are doing? His tone was very angry. Neji had the Chunin as his sensei only once, and he had never seen him like that. Anyo sa, Iruka-sensei. I learned a jutsu from here. Now you can graduate me, right? The hopeful tone in her voice made the teen dread the worst. So she believed. No, I can't have imagined it, she knows for sure. What do you mean graduate? You stole the sacred scroll of sealing, the collection of strong and dangerous seals, and just you written by the 4th Hokage. Huh, the Yondaime? Wait. That's not the point here. Mizuki-sensei told me, to get it, and learn a just you, then I'll graduate. The look of disbelief mixed with horror seemed to have convinced Naruto, who had paled herself as well. So, he lied to me, and used me? Before any one of them could say anything more, a figure behind then sneered. Congratulations on getting the correct answer, demon. Neji's eyes narrowed. There it was again, the look of loathing and hatred. Naruto was staring at him, the question plastered on her face. Why? Mizuki laughed. It sent shivers down his spine. You want to know why you are hated? Why no one loves you and never will? Neji froze. Apparently, so did the other two. No, Mizuki, it's forbidden, yelled the scarred Chunin in panic. I don't care. I hate her. 12 years ago, on October 10th, the Kyuubi no Kitsune attacked Konoha. Do you like the date? He leered down on the blonde, whose eyes had gone wide. My birthday. Her birthday? What does this— Wait. The 4th didn't kill the Kyuubi, no one can. He sealed it into you. You are the demon fox. You are the one who killed the shinobi, who killed lots of innocent people, who killed Iruka's parents. Iruka hates you too, everyone hates you. Neji's mind had gone blank. His mouth opened just a bit, in slight surprise. His eyes were wide. Now, it explains everything. They fear her because they think she is the Kyuubi. Most who hate her are civilians. They don't understand the art of sealing, and the shinobi. Losing loved ones. People tend to try finding someone responsible. Just like I did with Hinata-sama. He growled, hands balled into fists, veins popping around his eyes. Flashes of his time with Naruto played like a film in his mind. Her smiling face, her seriousness in training, the way she jumped up and down when she finished Ikeda, the way her eyes would sparkle with mirth when she told him she was preparing a surprise for him, the way she looked when he left on his first ever C rank, the way she handled the glares, and ignored them, the way she stared up at the sky, dreaming of flying herself. Was it fate that she was chosen? Why? Well, at least now I understand her a bit. Why she wants to become Hokage, to be acknowledged, to be loved. She, like me, has a seal that determines her fate, but even without knowing about it, she had always fought. That was why she could defeat me that day. Naruto, you truly are amazing. Konoha should be thankful to you for being the savior. If I were in your place, I would go the way of darkness. I had started on it, until you came and pulled me out. I am forever in your debt, he whispered. The sound of Fuma's shuriken slicing through the air caught his attention, and his eyes snapped back to reality. Taking in the situation, and for the first time in his life, not thinking before acting, he threw himself into the fight, pining the frozen blonde girl under him protectively. There was a loud splinch. The huge shuriken had grazed his back and flown to the side. Neither Iruka nor Mizuki expected this. Naruto, who was still frozen in shock, only now registered that someone had shielded her. Someone shorter than the Chunins. Someone, whose long dark hair made a curtain around them. Her eyes widened and her mouth opened in a silent scream. Neji. What is he doing here? He knows. He is going to hate me. Ibeo. For the second time in one day, she felt the tears sting her eyes, and she let them roam free across her face. The realization that she had a demon sealed inside her by her beloved Hokage, or the fact that Konoha believed she was the Kitsune. None of them could compare to the pain that was feeling now. Like white-hot knives had pierced her chest in one go. Why does the thought of Neji hating and despising me hurt so much more? I don't understand. The boy grunted in pain, and leaning on his elbows, lifted his upper torso. His face was centimeters away from hers. Then he leaned and whispered softly in her ear, at the same time, placing his right hand on her stomach, right where the seal was embedded. You were fated to be the one. To control him, I am sure. The fourth Hokage had a reason. This is not a burden, and you are no demon, Uzumaki Naruto. Then he grudgingly hopped off, glaring at the silver-haired man in front of him. It had taken both Chunin a few minutes to get back to reality from their intense gaping. Naruto shifted uneasily in her bed, brow furrowed. It was nighttime, if the moonlight illuminating the dark room was any indignation. Behind the open windows, the stone faces of the Hokage were glaring down at the village, and the stone eyes of the Yondaime Hokage were looking right in the direction of the small apartment, in which the girl was currently sleeping. A drop of sweat slid down her forehead, going down her squinted eyes and into the pillow. The small blonde turned in her sleep, rather forcefully, and ended up in a heap of blankets on the floor. Itai, she grumbled, eyes still closed, and rubbing her bottom. Slowly, she opened her eyes, taking in her surroundings. My room. Oh yeah. I was trying to sleep, Ibeo. Rubbing one eye, she got up, dragging the sheets with her back to bed. It was then that she noticed her window was open. The wind was blowing with so much force, that Naruto had catch, flatten and roll her hair in a tight bun. Kuso. After quickly closing it, she scrambled back to the warm bed, and draped the sheets around her. What a day, and I can't even get my deserved sleep. Her eyes fell on a headband on the small table beside her bed. It had a small metal plate with a leaf symbol engraved into it. The fabric was dark blue, and slightly worn out. The sight of it made the girl smile, but it didn't last long. She looked down at her stomach, frowning a bit. The seal. Flashback. Naruto couldn't believe it. She had successfully made it to the tower, past the guards, and entered the secret library. Funny, it was guarded with the same blood seal as the main Konoha library. She had no time to think of those things. She had a much more important task to do. She was no idiot. Well, not as much as people thought her to be. Ibeo. No wait, scratch that, she wasn't an idiot. Period. She knew that something wasn't right in the whole thing Mizuki had told her, but this was also her last ever chance to graduate, and fulfill her dreams. And be with Neji. Wait, why is he popping in my mind? Go Awa, why go away? HMPH. Trying to make as little noise as possible, she sneaked to the very back, where she knew the most important scrolls were kept. The one she needed wasn't exactly hard to find, for it was put in the middle of a drawer, and it had the same blood seals around it. Blinking once and willing the thought, blood seals are very unoriginal. To go away, she quickly smeared the leftover blood from the earlier bite on her thumb on the seals. They glowed blue for a moment, then disappeared. She quickly took the scroll, balanced for a few minutes. This thing was so heavy. And so big, she started running to the exit, a triumphant grin plastered on her whiskered face. Of course something just had to go wrong. She found a confused Sandaime Hokage in his nightgown standing in front of her, both eyebrows raised. She dropped the scroll. Think Datbeo. She spotted an orange book badly hidden in the sleeve of the old man's gown. A smirk appeared on her face. Gomen ne Jiji. Oiroke no Jutsu. She landed softly on the ground, and looked back. I knew it. Gigi is a perv. Something prickled at the back of her head, making her nervous. She turned around, staring into the dark space of the Konoha forest. An owl hooted. I am being paranoid. Nobody's there, Ibeo. I have work to. A figure watched her disappear into the woods, not realizing his jaw was uncharacteristically hanging open for the flies to be invited in. Naruto stopped at a clearing and settled down on the ground. Trying to calm her adrenaline-filled heart, she carefully opened the scroll. She couldn't hide her surprise as she gasped out loud. This loopy, handsome and incredibly girly handwriting was very familiar to her. This scroll was written by the same person who had written the notebook on seals. Her eyes were wide with excitement. Quickly she took out a scroll she had taken to carrying around since she started learning Fuinjutsu, took out a brush and quickly drew a small seal on it. It was pretty simple, and the first one she had seen in the notebook. Its purpose was to copy directly from another scroll. And that was what she was doing now. But the scroll was small, thus she could only copy something the same size as it was. Since she was planning to learn the first just you here, then she would copy a jutsu from the end. She heard shuffling around her, and looked around in worry. She had to hurry. Not quite reaching the very end of the huge scroll, she put the little scroll over a part, where an interactive seal was drawn. She placed her palm over it, and forming the half-ram seal with the other hand, muttered, Fuin. Hurriedly, she rolled it up and placed it in her pants pocket. Now, let's get to learning. After that, everything happened so fast. She learned the Just You, which was a clone one, much to her annoyance, heard running and a flustered Iruka yelling at her. She remembered trying to explain it, while the thought of doubt that had always lingered at the back of her mind resurfaced with each word she tried to say. She remembered Mizuki appearing, with a mad grin on his face. She recalled her shaking and the fear that clawed at her heart, the anger she felt, and truth Tat left her standing there, paralyzed, unmoving. The only indication that she was still there was the breath that came out harshly, at thought tearing through the lungs, the barely visible shaking of her body, her face that had slowly paled and her eyes that were widened by the flashbacks she was having. She wanted to deny it. She wanted to be a normal kid, who wanted to be a shinobi. She never asked for any of it. She was a demon, one who killed others, one who killed Iruka's parents. She never saw Iruka getting hurt, nor the flying Fuma shuriken aimed at her. When she had finally came back to her senses, she was lying on her back, and someone was on top of her. She didn't feel any pain, meaning the one who shielded her got hit. But why? Who would do that? She was a demon, a monster. She felt something cold on her cheeks. Wet, am I crying? Ignoring the tears that were steadily flowing from her eyes to her hair and on the ground, she tried to focus. Only then she noticed that the person on top of her was smaller than Iruka or Mizuki, and the fact that the person's long dark hair had fallen from the tie and had formed a curtain around their heads. Realization hit her. She felt her eyes widening and her mouth opening in a silent scream. Neji. What is he doing here? He knows. He must have heard everything. He knew she was a demon now. He is going to hate me. Ibeo. Her eyes stung. She felt something cold on her cheeks. Wet, am I crying? Nand. The dull pain in her chest increased tenfold. The realization that she had a demon sealed inside her by her beloved Hokage, or the fact that Konoha believed she was the Kitsune. None of them could compare to the pain that was feeling now. Like white-hot knives had pierced her heart in one go. For the first time in her life she had a person who had acknowledged her, treated her like a human being, became her dearest and most closest friend. And now, he will hate her, after all who would want to associate with a demon who murdered hundreds. Why does the thought of Neji hating and despising me hurt so much more? I don't understand. What is wrong with me? She felt him move. He was lifting himself on his elbows. Most of the weight on her disappeared. She gulped, worry flooding her. He was injured, and because of her. But before she could say anything, she felt him lower his head. At the same time, she felt a something warm touch her abdomen. This was where the seal was located. Now, after all the explanation she heard from Mizuki, she knew what the marks meant. Ever since starting to learn Fuinjutsu, she had always been curious. It had always appeared when she channeled chakra. His breath fanned her neck as he whispered softly in her ear. You were fated to be the one. To control him, I am sure. The fourth Hokage had a reason. This is not a burden, and you are no demon, Uzumaki Naruto. Relief filled her, and she teared up more, this time, letting them flow without regret, for they were tears of happiness. The hollow in her heart had disappeared with his words. Neji didn't think of her as a demon. She didn't care for others. Let them think what they want, I am no demon, and he is beside me. His lips grazed the tip of her ear and she saw his stand up and move away, Byakugan activated. Jaw clenched and body already in the traditional Hyuga Taijutsu stance. His brows were furrowed and his breathing coming hard. There was blood oozing from the gash on his back. Well, this is certainly entertaining. You have managed to brainwash the Hyuga genius boy. You have talent, filthy kitsune. Yelled out the silver-haired Chunin. Naruto sat up and glared at him, inwardly frowning at her heart. Neji said I was no demon. He doesn't think like that. So why is my heart beating so fast? Trying to ignore it, she focused on the situation. You are a prejudiced idiot, who can't tell apart a scroll and the kunai sealed in it, stated the young teen with narrowed eyes, his Byakugan focused on the enemy. Iruka's eyes widened slightly, but he smiled nevertheless. The fox is the one who killed innocent people, it's the FX that's a filthy demon. But Naruto isn't the fox, she is an aspiring ninja of Konohagakure, who will one day become Hokage. Naruto's head whipped around so fast that she was sure it had snapped. She was staring at her sensei with big teary blue eyes. The Hyuga's eyes had softened, but other than that, he had given no indication that he had heard it. The scarred Chunin gave a proud, thought a bit painful smile to the blonde. You are all idiots. I am going to kill you all, and leave with the sacred scroll. No one can stop me. The silver-haired man laughed maniacally. Something in Naruto snapped. Seeing that her sensei was hurt, eyeing the bloody back of Neji, she finally understood. I want to let you hurt Neji or Iruka_sensei again. She screamed, eyes blazing in anger, and her blonde locks flying behind her. What can you do, demon? You are the dead last of the lot. You can't even do one pitiful clone. Whatever you fire at me, I'll give you back tenfold. She whipped her hands up and put her fingers in a cross seal. Neji smirked. Iruka's face showed confusion. Taiju, Cage Bunshin no Jutsu. Neji's sweat dropped at the bloody pulp that was Mizuki curled up on the ground pitifully. Iruka was trying to come out of his shocked stupor. Ehehe. I might have overdone it. The blonde rubbed the back of her head sheepishly, a smile plastered on her face. Neji rolled his eyes. Iruka just slumped on the ground, leaning on a tree. Naruto, come here. With one curious look at Neji, who had a small idea what was going on, but hid it by closing his eyes and leaning on another tree with his shoulder, she strolled over to the Chunin. Close your eyes. Doing as she was told, she felt her hair being raised, and something cold on her forehead. Opening her eyes, she was greeted with a hiat-less Iruka, smiling at her softly. Congratulations on graduating, Genin Uzumaki Naruto. She had death hugged the poor man then and there. Flashback end. A giggle escaped her as she turned around, burying her face in her pillow. Neji, he had saved me that day, and he. She blushed deep red as she recalled how he whispered in her ear, and how warm and fuzzy she felt when he touched her stomach. Get a grip, Uzumaki Naruto. He is Neji. Thrashing around in frustration and messing the blanket a bit more, she slumped, hitting her head on the pillow. After Iruka had presented her with the hiat, he had left, saying he had to hand in a report. Naruto had argued with him that he needed to go to the hospital, get the wounds treated, but the Chunin had declined. Turns out they were just numerous little cuts from the ninja string, nothing serious, and it could be treated at home. Before he had left, however, he had given them a weird look. I didn't know you two knew each other, and were friends. Take good care of our troublemaker, Neji, and with a wink, he had gone, leaving an overly confused Naruto rubbing her head, and a blushing Neji. Why are you red? Are you sick? Naruto had put her hand on his forehead, making him back away, swatting her hand away in the process. I am fine, he had said, turning his back to her and heading out. You know, Hinata has that disease too. She always turns red, especially if Kiba is around, or when she is talking to me. The blonde grumbled, making the boy sigh. What's wrong? Wait, you're back. We need to get you to the hospital. He turned to glare at her. It's just a scratch, and I will not go to the hospital. He had found himself being yonked by the blonde. Oi, Neji Teme. You got hurt 'cause of me, her voice trailed away. The boy sighed, then looked at her seriously. I couldn't and wouldn't let you get hurt. The fluttering in her chest increased. Don't worry, I am fine. We had better get you home, it's late. What? You need to go first, I will get back just fine. A raised eyebrow was the only answer she got, and she still didn't have her way, for he had just grabbed her sleeve and was dragging her out of the woods. Neji had walked her to her apartment complex. This was where she had given him an unexpected, fast hug and a whispered, arigato. After that she had ran home, closing the door behind her with a snap and sinking on the floor, her face all red, and heart-pounding. As she remembered this, her heart started beating fast again. Damn, am I sick? I need to cure this, I can't go to missions with such distractions. And I have to take the picture tomorrow. I need sleep. She really didn't want to think of the fact that Neji had demanded her to come to their training ground after it, and that was the reason why she wanted to get up so early. No way in Hashirama's left, anyway, that just wasn't it. He had said they needed to discuss some things. Naruto knew the talk will be about the Kyuubi. Her heart sank. She was scared for some reason, but she wasn't sure of what exactly. Plus she had made him promise to tell all about his mission, and he, in return, had made her promise to tell him the surprise. Turning her head, and resting her cheek on the pillow, the blonde drifted off to sleep, thoughts of a certain lavender-eyed boy filling her mind again. After meeting him she couldn't have a decent dream that didn't involve him in a way or another. Perfect, dat Bayo, she exclaimed in pure satisfaction as she drew the last line on her face. Gigi is in for such a surprise. Jumping up and down in front of the mirror, she gave herself a thumbs up and a nod, then grabbing her orange jacket, jumped out of the window, scaring the old woman walking with her grandchild right under it. The photographer had stared at her for 5 long minutes, during which the blonde had fidgeted nervously with the hem of her jacket, which reached halfway to her knees. It was always a bit big for her, but she loved it nonetheless. It was a gift from Sarutobi on her 7th birthday. She had 3 sets of them, along with her other, mostly orange, clothes. Come on Osan, take the picture already, grumbled the girl, making the man sweat drop. Are you sure? Hi, positive? I mean, what if you change your mind? I won't, dat Bayo, Naruto yelled on top of her voice, making the birds settled on the roof and trees take off in fright. Oops, click. Rubbing the face paint off her face with her sleeve, Naruto hopped from roof to roof, till she reached the Hokage tower, smirking in an extraordinary, Uchiha way. The 3rd Hokage resisted the urge to facepalm as he stared from the smirking little orange-obsessed girl, who was practically bouncing, to the picture in his hand. This was supposed to be her shinobi ID. What am I going to do with her? Why, did she just have to have Kushina's personality and Minato's wit? In the picture, her face was decorated with bright red swirly designs, going from her temples to her forehead, then down the side of her face to the nape of her neck. She had even outlined her whisker marks. Anyo saw, Gigi, you like it right? I spent a few whole hours on it. He raised his head and seeing her radiate so much energy and happiness, smiled slightly, lowering his pipe. It is unique. Well, it seems I will have to accept it now. Yosh, Naruto, why are you wearing those goggles? Where is your Hietai 8? The aged man asked, curious. After all, this particular preteen in front of him was full of surprises, which never ceased to amaze him. Well, you see Saru Gigi, she looked up and tapped the lime green goggles with a finger, smiling. After not wearing them for over a year I decided to honor them and wear them one more time, before I officially discard them into the to be opened in 10 years list. To be opened in 10 years? The Hokage raised an eyebrow, amused. That, and I don't want to dirty Iruka-sensei's old Hiet, Ibeo. She smirked, staring at Sarutobi, who leaned back in his chair, sighing. I'm going to defeat you, old man. Naruto heard a crash, and turned around to see a dust cloud. The Hokage scowled, puffing his cheeks and sinking further into his chair. This is going to be a long day. And so it did, as a few hours later, he was rewarded with a severe nosebleed. Jiraiya would have said he deserved it for peeping. Which it wasn't. He was merely checking on the well-being of his grandson and his diseased successor's daughter. Neji really needed to do something about his most recent problem, his lack of sleep, which was evident with the dark circles under his eyes, the random headaches and the fact that a small blonde seemed to occupy his mind all day and night. I need a break. Last night was especially difficult in many ways. The revelations were a bit hard to accept for him. He was trying to deny everything. He wasn't referring to the fact that his friend and constant annoyance was the Kyuubi vessel. No, he had accepted that then and there, and he had helped her. He leaned on the tree, lowering his head, hands crossed over his chest. He knew he should have done it some other way, any other way, except the one he did. He had thrown himself over her. Sure, it was to protect her, for she had frozen and needed encouragement. But no, he just had to make it worse. His cheeks reddened. Wait, I just whispered in her ear, so that the others won't hear. Nothing else. There is nothing else there. Hyuga Neji, get a grip. But deep down, he knew it was a lie. And his frantically beating heart was telling him just that, as well as his conscience, secretly sprouting thoughts like, but you liked it. You weren't disgusted like when other females are around you, passed through his mind. He shook his head. Girls were useless. And Naruto, she is dense, no manners at all. A tomboy who dresses in overlarge clothing, eats like there is no tomorrow. He had seen that once, she was sitting with Iruka, and had had several nightmares afterward. And that's what makes her special. She isn't like them. Oi Neji. His eyes snapped back to attention. Tenten was waving her hand in front of him, dark brown eyes showing concern. Naruto's eyes are the color of the sea. His eyes widened. He needed to stop thinking of the Uzumaki. This was unhealthy. Maybe he needed to go to the hospital? Or talk to the Hyuga medic nins? He knew for sure this wasn't normal. He used to be so reserved, calm, collected, but since that girl appeared in his life, it was like he was plucked in a world of chaos. Calm down. Yes. His voice was cool, void of emotion. Much better. Tenten glared at him. I have been trying to get your attention for whole 10 minutes, Neji. She was fingering her kunai. Neji's eyes focused on the potential treat. He knew the kunoichi could beat up almost anyone when angry. He, of course, didn't go into the category. Guy and Lee, however, were the first two on it. I was just sorting some of my thoughts out. Not a lie, did you want to inform me of something? The girl smiled. Guy-sensei said to take the day off. Really? Unexpected, but nevertheless, good news. I have to know what surprise was the Uzumaki planning, after all. He refused to believe the nagging voice at the back of his head that he simply missed her and wanted to see her, check if she was okay. A chibi Neji in his head squished and kicked that thought, which kept resurfacing with much more force. Great, now I am going crazy. What is wrong with me, Tusama? Will it be all right to consult Hiyashi-sama? He sighed inwardly, then turned his head to the right. Tenten was already facing that way, laughing slightly. The sounds of hitting a tree and huffing could have been heard from a mile around. Lee, he decided to train in his spare time today to surpass you. Neji snorted. In the past he would have said something like, it's fated that he will always be a loser, or something along the same lines. But Naruto had taught him otherwise. Now, he was sure that maybe one day, on pure taijutsu, Lee could beat him. Guy had insanely strong taijutsu, and was already teaching the smaller green-clad boy some of the special, dangerous elements. Who knows? Unknowingly a small smile was plastered on his face, as he watched his fellow teammate, friend and rival kick the tree's backside. He heard a gasp. Turning around, he found himself facing Tenten, with a very peculiar expression on her face, akin to surprise, disbelief and deep down, relief and happiness. Kay raised eyebrow. You have changed. You weren't like this in the academy. Those changes, all the team noticed, and we are all very glad. By this time, somehow Lee was standing beside her, sweaty, still huffing, but the ever-present grin shining brightly. He squinted his eyes in caution. What if he was blinded? As he had youthfully given him a tap on the shoulder. You know, I would even kiss the one who made you see the light again. The bun-haired girl proclaimed, and Lee nodded, enthusiastically. Your flames of youth are truly shining brightly on us, Neji-kun. Hyuga Neji was stunned. He had never expected his teammates to be so observant. They had known his story of the Hyuga seal and the kidnapping. Everyone in his academy class did. And he was an arrogant prick then, thinking everyone was inferior to him and he was the best. He doubted there was anyone more conceited than that. In the Uchiha training ground, a certain duck butt-haired boy, as another blonde simply loved to put it, sneezed. The poor wooden dummy was burned into a crisp seconds later. Though a Naruto would always say he was still an arrogant prick, just not to that degree. After all, he had started making friends and believing that fate could be overcome. He smiled. The other two beamed. A sudden green blur tackled all three to the ground. "Ah, my dearest Genin, you are so full of youth. Let us have a group hug then." Waterfall of tears and a very weird genjutsu. The trio backed away from their slightly crazy sensei. "So, Neji-kun, who is the person whose power of youth changed you from a corrupted young man to a delightful bearer of youth?" "I am getting a permanent eye twitch," he thought, as his right hand through his long hair. Throwing one last look at the three, two of whom were in a hugging session, much to the unhidden disgust of the third, he slipped away. Later that day, the rest of Team Guy would realize that the boy hadn't answered the question. Lee had them proclaimed that with the power of youth he will find the person, and Tenten had agreed with him. Guy had tried to group hug again. He was seen flying like a bird through the sky, a few kunai stuck in his butt. He had landed right in front of a certain silver-haired Junin. Damn you, Kakashi. Thus, Operation Stalk Neji had begun. He ran through the Konoha forest, to the other end of the village. That was where Training Ground 7 was located. His long hair was flying behind him in a rhythm, his eyes were calm and focused. He had sensed her chakra way back and was lightly frowning at that fact. Maybe they needed to find a way of masking chakra. He would have to consult the Hyuga library later. She was releasing enormous amounts. He was curious and slightly worried. What is that idiot up to now? Jumping on the ground, he took in the side T in front of him. About a dozen shadow clones had burst into existence around her, clouding her, a small black-haired boy and a tall man with sunglasses in a mass of white smoke. He is a Junin. I have seen him around the Hokage Tower a few times. Didn't Guy say that he was personally training the Hokage's grandson? He narrowed his eyes. Was he the mentioned grandson then? What is Naruto doing with them? He had a very bad feeling in his gut. His eyes widened as the smoke cleared. The teen closed his eyes tightly and looked away, flushing deeply. The naked girl swooned around the Junin, making him sprout blood from his nose and promptly faint. Pervert. And Naruto, what the hell is she doing? He glared angrily at the blonde, who was busy boasting to the kid that that was the way the Just You was done. Oh no, don't tell me. He wanted to hit his head on something right at that moment. But he resisted the temptation, focusing his attention back to the duo, who were currently seated on a fallen tree trunk. Why do you want to defeat the Hokage so much? Isn't he your grandpa? So this is the grandson. One question answered, another one occurred. Is this situation to be considered as good, bad, or terrible? He named me after the village, Konohamaru. Everyone knows me as the Hokage's grandson. No one calls me by my name. That's why I want to be Hokage and defeat him. I don't want to be in his shadow. I want to be known as Sarutobi Konohamaru. Neji hummed, his anger somewhat forgotten. Interesting. There is no shortcut of becoming Hokage. You must train hard, it won't happen in just a minute. You have to be strong to take responsibility for everyone in the village, regardless of what they think of you. She is referring to the Kyuubi and the fact that they hate her. She hasn't given up her dream then. His eyes shone proudly as he watched his blonde give a life talk to the kid. Wait, no. Go back, you stupid thoughts, go back. He was loosing it again. Just remember, train hard, and then, one day we will fight for the hat, for my dream is to become Hokage as well, Konohamaru. She was standing, her fist pumped in the air and, even though he was only seeing her from the back, he somehow felt it, a huge grin on her face. Neji looked at the small boy. He looked ridiculous in the helmet, and sort of reminded him of Naruto. Figures those two would find each other. He snickered slightly. The boy, Konohamaru, had yelled that Naruto was no longer his boss, but his rival, then ran to the opposite direction. After the boy disappeared, he decided to make his presence known. Noiselessly jumping right behind her, he casually growled out. What? Did I tell you about using that jutsu of yours? And now, you even go and teach it to a brat. He smirked as he saw her jump in surprise and whirl around to face him. It was a wonder how a girl who could have a fierce glare of a dragon looked like a cornered lamb now. His smirk widened. Oh, he really loved teasing her. Dump. No, why did the disease have to resurface now? Go away, heart, stop this now. Now, Uzumaki Naruto wasn't scared, heck no she wasn't. This was only Hyuga Neji. She tried hard to forget that he had threatened her with ramen if she ever did the Oiroke no Jutsu again. He had witnessed its creation, and had gotten really angry. At what, she had no idea. Neji wouldn't hurt her. The evil aura around him and the evil red glint in his eye said otherwise. She gulped. Hey Neji. She chirped in an awfully fake, cheerful tone. That didn't fool the boy. Naruto took a step back. Neji can be scary when he wants to. Should I run? Wait. Why is he red? Curiosity overtook her fear and she placed a hand on his forehead. The aura disappeared instantly. Neji, are you sick? You're all red. The boy swatted her hand away in annoyance and looked away. Maybe I am, he muttered under his breath. The girl didn't hear it though. After a few minutes, during which the blonde girl was pondering whether to fear for her life or not, Neji, putting on the indifferent mask again, stared at her. Well? He demanded. Naruto looked down, shuffling one foot. Well, Konohamaru kind of followed me and asked me to teach him the jutsu. Wait Neji, don't get angry. He only wanted to defeat Gigi. And how could I refuse when I had such an awesome jutsu under my wing? The smile was back on her face and she was staring at him expectantly. Neji's eye twitched. Are you trying to tell me that jutsu defeated the Hokage? He countered, disbelief evident in his narrowed eyes. The girl nodded. So the Sandaime is a pervert, as well? What is wrong with all Konoha shinobi? Why are they all perverts? Don't use it again. You hear me, Uzumaki? Said girl fumed. Why not? It is great when defeating perverts. Don't you realize that you are, never mind. You are just an idiot not to understand such trivial things, he said smugly. Naruto balled her fists. Take that back you bastard. Neji just waved her away with one hand. He could almost see the vein popping on her forehead. Come to think of it, where did she get those goggles? He hadn't seen her wear any during the year he had known her. You graduated. Why aren't you wearing your Hite 8? The anger vanished from the blonde girl as she smiled proudly. This made him want to smile as well. Well, I used to wear them before I met you, so today I am going to honor those goggles for the last time. After that, I will always wear my Hite, she proclaimed. Neji laughed. Nay, Neji. You promised to tell me all about your mission. She was pointing an accusing finger at her. She has no manners whatsoever. Yes, I did. Did you train your chakra control while I was away? That was part of the bargain. He saw her fidget. She hadn't trained, that much he knew for sure. But why? Well, some stuff came up, she mumbled, looking anywhere but at him. After all, she didn't want him to know she was researching seals just yet. The young Hyuga sighed, rubbing his temples. This girl was his constant headache. Well, then get to practicing. No excuses. And I don't care that tomorrow is your genin inauguration, he said casually and plucked a few leaves from a nearby tree. Here, I'll show you the simplest chakra control exercise. It seems that the one I had showed you is more of nature manipulation than chakra control. Since you suck at both, this one should do it. I am positive you didn't pay attention when your sensei was telling you about it. He turned around to see a murderous aura around Naruto. He smirked. I really love getting her all riled up. She is incredibly funny and easy to tease. Wait, why am I thinking these things again? He strode over to her and promptly stuck a leaf on her forehead. The now confused girl calmed down. Wah, you have to keep the leaf hovering a few inches over your forehead with your chakra. Too much, it will be blown away, too little, it won't rise. Now get to work. After the monologue, he sat on the grass, leaning on a tree trunk, closed his eyes and started hovering the leaf himself. The girl gaped. Why are you doing it too? Don't you know it already? Without opening his eyes, or losing control, Neji answered smoothly. Chakra control exercises are always beneficial, no matter what rank or age you are. Plus I have nothing more to do at this moment, and I need to get the information of your surprise out of you. Right, well, I'll try it then, Ibeo. They sat like that for a few hours. The sun was already setting, and Neji, even with his eyes closed, could almost feel the reddish rays slowly disappear behind the horizon. Picking the still floating leaf from above his head, he opened his eyes. Naruto was slumped over another tree, right beside him, hands balled into fists, eyes screwed up in concentration. Even after 3 hours, she still couldn't keep up a normal flow. The leaf kept dropping and rising, but at least she wasn't giving up. He snorted. For the whole time he knew her, and even before that when he witnessed her screaming on top of her lungs that she was going to be Hokage, he knew she wasn't one to give up. He knew she had a lot of chakra, and that was without counting the Kyubis. That was why her control was so bad. Naturally, females had better control, but that was mostly due to the fact that they had very little chakra. Naruto, however, had more than most Junin. He shook his head in wonder. She really was something. The leaf finally stopped jerking back and forth and settled 2 inches above her head. He saw her smile and mutter a barely audible "Ttibao." He smiled as well. She did it. Good job, Naruto. It seemed that she wanted to practice more, and was oblivious to her surroundings. He decided it was safe to observe her. Slowly, without making any noise, he crawled closer to her, sitting with his legs under him, the traditional Hyuga posture. The habit engraved into him by his father and uncle. Her overlarge jumpsuit was making her look even smaller than she was. He noticed it was worn. It will be ruined on her first real mission. If she passes the exam her Junin sensei gives her, of course. He watched her eyebrows furrow, concentration ebbing away from her. Her hands folded themselves on her lap, fingers touching. The leaf fluttered but stayed there. She is getting better. This is almost like the meditative stance. He observed the way her whisker marks would quirk when she smiled or grimaced. His hand moved automatically, but his brain registered at nearly the last moment what he was doing. His finger stopped right beside her cheek. His hair fluttered. He exhaled. What is wrong with me? After berating himself, he risked another look at the blonde. She was the cause of all those strange things happening to him lately. Her spiky blonde mop of hair was shadowing her closed eyes. The bangs were falling on the weird green goggles. It wouldn't hurt, right? After all, I didn't really pay attention that day. I was busy glaring at the traitor Mizuki. Deeming this a normal, plausible explanation, and ignoring his heart, which had started beating fast, he moved both his hands around her, stopping at the base of her neck. His arm brushed against her shoulder. The leaf fell. Blue eyes opened so stare at widened milky white ones. Neji? What are you doing, Dateba? Yo! What is he doing? Screamed Tenten, her eyes wide as she stared at the scene unfolding in front of her eyes. Yosh! Seems the flames of youth of our dear Neji-kun have finally risen. I need to see. A hand clasped over his mouth, and Tenten dragged him back. Urasai. But Tenten-chan, look, what's he doing now isn't the birth of flames of youth. Neji is a hidden pervert. His flames of youth have just... Splash! Did Neji-kun just... No way. The figure they were following turned to stare at their direction with confused, lilac-white eyes. Rock Lee, I am going to kill you. Does he look like Neji to you? The green-clad boy was speechless. Hyuga Ogichi didn't have the time to marvel at the weird choking noises coming from the nearby bushes, because at that moment, he had a mob of very angry women running at him with murder in their eyes. Fearing for his life, he ran. He knew one thing. He was never coming to the onsen again. Plan C went into the non-existent trash can along with Plan A and B. Neji froze, his hand still on the base of her neck. It felt warm. Those cerulean eyes he loved so much were staring up at him with confusion and fear. I merely want to see your hair, he stated, inwardly cheering that his voice didn't shake. He willed the fluttering of his chest to go away. What was he doing anyway? This was illogical. Huh? Nays? Without explaining, Neji carefully started untying the knot, which was always hidden behind her spiky sun-kissed hair. Naruto had frozen, and Neji suspected she was afraid to move. But why? Naruto froze. The hands on the back of her neck started untying her hair. And she couldn't do anything to prevent it. Half of her wanted to push him away, and the other half liked it. She stared at his chest, which was the only thing directly in front of her eyes, glaring slightly at his white shirt. White is a pretty color. His breath fanned her neck as he worked through the tough knot. She took unusually long time to tame her hair into it, after all, and her cheeks flushed. Her heart started beating uncontrollably. His hands felt warm. She couldn't deny it, she liked the touch. And it scared her to death. Finally, her hair went loose. She sighed and backed away, standing up in the process and dusting herself, just for the sake of having something to do with her hands. She cautiously looked up. He was standing as well, head tilted slightly to the left, his lavender eyes on her. She blushed again. What she didn't notice was his flushed expression and the amazement in his eyes. Neji was awed. He had resisted the urge to gape. Her hair flowed freely, reaching under her waist. Her spiked bangs framed her face, and the short spikes blended with the long strands. A few loose spikes right on top of her head stayed as they were, defying gravity. But he had to admit, it suited her like no other. What? I don't get it. What's wrong with you? Do you know how long it takes to put my hair up again? Tchtttebeo. Anne, your hair is beautiful. Why do you hide it? He interrupted in a soft voice. Naruto failed to notice that. She just laughed. Neji raised an eyebrow. So, I should take this as a compliment? She sniggered, her unease vanishing. What, is she? Well, after all, you are a hair-obsessed. His jaw dropped. Is she insulting me? Prick, who wastes a few hours on his hair? Naruto smirked, watching with excitement as a muscle moved on Neji's jaw. He is angry, hee. Her eyes widened. Neji wondered if he had imagined a huge light bulb on top of her head. The Uzumaki girl moved closer. Neji stilled. Well, if you got to touch my hair, then I get to touch yours, Ttebeo. The young Hyuga's eyes widened. Naruto smirked ferally and ran at him. She found herself face first on the grass seconds later and looked peeved to see a smirking Neji above her. He raised his finger and scolded her. HMPH, just you wait Hyuga Neji Teme. As she picked herself from the ground, Neji folded his arms around his chest. Come on, it's rather late, and you have to wake up early tomorrow. Fine, grumbled the girl, tying her hair up in a bun. His hand grabbed her wrist, stopping her. He looked at her pointedly. HMPH. Fine. You are such a pain in the ass, Neji Teme. She let go of her hair, and crossed her arms, pouting. He laughed. So, what is this surprise you were talking about before I left for the mission? They stopped. Naruto looked at him. Well, if you tell me how your mission went, I'll tell you the surprise, Datbeo. Nyeho nodded, and turned to the direction of her apartment. And I'm hungry. He groaned. This was going to be a long day. Ichiraku Tuchi knew he was old, and not in the best health. But he knew one thing, his eyes weren't betraying him now. Ayame wasn't at the ramen stand today, she had a few things to do. But Tuchi knew when he told her what exactly was going on, she would certainly scream at the closest wall, even hit it, wishing to be here as well. Well, this was interesting to say the least. His eyes quirked upwards in a smile as he watched the pair, one slurping her ramen noisily and the other eating with reserved dignity and pride, trying not to pay attention to the eating habits of his companion. Dot was to deliver a scroll to the land of wood. Where is that? Tuchi watched the boy, a Hyuga, judging from his eyes, sigh. The blonde girl surely asked a lot of questions. He chuckled, going back to cleaning the already clean pan. He would never admit it, but he was curious. Plus Naruto always shared her stories with him and Ayame, so he had developed a rather bad habit of listening to conversations, especially if the young blonde was involved in some way. A few hundred miles to the north of Konoha. It's a very small country. On our way we encountered a group of thugs. They weren't shinobi, but they still wanted the scroll. So you guys kicked some ass, right? Wasn't Lee great in taijutsu? And the girl, Tenten, you know the one that likes yo. Tuchi surpassed a chuckle as the boy nearly dropped the noodles from his chopsticks. She does not, the boy coughed. Don't you want to listen to the story? If you continue with the unnecessary interruptions, I will not continue it. The old man turned just in time to see the blonde Jinchuriki pout and stuff her face with noodles. Somehow she had muttered a, "Fine, you bastard," through her mouthful. She was so much like her mother. As you put it, we did kick some ass. The scroll was for someone named Fu. She was a weird girl. Before we left, however, we were ambushed. It seemed that those thugs wanted some revenge. They were samurai, and since none of us, except Tenten and Gai-sensei, knew how deadly a katana could be. The boy trailed away. Tuchi watched Naruto's eyes bulge out in worry, her ramen forgotten. What happened? Well, the Hyuga paused for effect. This pissed Naruto off. Tuchi was quite enjoying himself just by watching those two. Oh, Ayame didn't know what she was missing. We fought. Lee got hurt though, his arm was slashed. We killed them. The Ichiraku owner, even though being a civilian, interacted with shinobi on daily basis, and he knew what the first kill meant. He saw Naruto give him a short hug. Killing is part of a shinobi. My father and uncle both taught me that. Later we were told in the academy, but I still couldn't imagine it before now. This guilt will never go away. The fact that you are feeling guilt proves that you are not a killing monster, Neji. Plus, well, think of it this way, you didn't kill innocent people, right? They deserved it. In our world, isn't it better to die than live knowing how much of a foul person you are? Wait, what am I saying? Took saw the boy give a small smile to the girl, who was currently hitting herself for being careless and tactless. Are you done? Let's go. The boy, Neji, proceeded to drag Naruto out of the stand. No, my ramen, TT Ibeo. Let me go Neji Baka. The stand owner's sweat dropped as he watched them disappear. Well, things certainly were interesting. Naruto glared heatedly at the figure walking a few steps ahead of her. Said figure turned around with a raised eyebrow, calmly waiting for her to catch up. My ramen. I am not a refilling bag of Ryuu, Naruto. Peef. TT Ibeo. I did my part of the bargain. Now, it's your turn, he stated. Naruto forgot her anger and her ramen. She just grinned and grabbing his bandaged hand, ran towards her apartment. So, this surprise is in the apartment? Neji pondered, looking around. The place was rather small, but cozy. It gave off the feeling of home, something that the enormous Hyuga compound didn't. The main door led to the kitchen. He noticed several ramen cups here and there, but other than that, it was clean. Something he truly didn't expect of the blonde. His gaze turned to the door Naruto was currently opening. It was her bedroom. The walls were faded white and slightly peeling off. It was evident the building was quite old. The bed was in a corner, the white sheets white? I expected orange. Folded at the base of it, beside the pillow. His gaze turned to the floor. His sweat dropped. Naruto chuckled nervously and began picking up the stray socks and orange shirts from the ground. It was a mess, but most of said mess were scrolls and books. He bent down to pick up one of them. History of the Hidden Continents, Konohagakure no Sato. This was the book he had checked out of the library for a long time ago. So she was still reading it? He had to admit, it was written good, but rereading it? Reading a book once is enough. Who reread books anyway? A silver-haired Junin sneezed over the file he was holding. They glared at the picture attached to it, as though it was its fault. The red swirly marks and the weird animalistic glare made the back of his hair stand up. He sneezed again. Neji turned the book over to the page it was marked. His eyebrows raised. The paragraph was about the Yondaime and his genin team. Namikaze Minato, being a genius, became a Junin at 15, and had officially taken a genin team. Ren, last name unknown. After the end of the Third Great Shinobi War, the battle at Kanabi Bridge, where Team Minato became famous, she was killed in a mission, protecting a scroll containing valuable information. The scroll was later delivered back to Konoha by her former teammate. Uchiha Obito, diseased uncle of Uchiha Sasuke. He had died a hero's death at the Battle of Kanabi Bridge. The details regarding his death are not widely known. His name can be found on the Memorial Stone, located in Training Ground 7, which was always the place where Team 7 Feet trained. Hitaki Kakashi, son of the deceased Hitaki Sakumo, the only living member of Team Minato. He had gained his nicknames Shanringan no Kakashi and Copycat Ninja after the Battle of Kanabi Bridge. Hitaki Kakashi is known to have copied over 1,000 jutsu, and has a kill on sight command in the bingo book. After the death of his teammates, Hitaki Kakashi never took on a genin team, the reasons are unknown. Minato Namikaze, the Junin sensei of Team Minato, Funijutsu master, Yondaime Hokage of Konohagakure. He was proclaimed as a hero, saving the village from the nine-tailed demon fox. The day he died was later turned into a holiday. The Kyuubi Namikaze had a flee on sight command in the bingo book, and he was feared throughout the shinobi continents. He had earned himself the nickname of Kiroi Senku, Yellow Flash, due to his pride technique, the Hiraishin, which hasn't been seen after his death. No information regarding his family can be disclosed. What? Neji, what are you doing? The question caught him off guard, as he snapped his attention to Naruto, who was standing a few feet away, a bunch of scrolls tucked in her arms. Nothing, just found an interesting paragraph. That book is great, right? I am rereading it the third time, TT Ibeo. Third time and she still doesn't notice that some of the words and sentences are off. He rolled his eyes and placed the book on her bed. So, oh, right, well, Remember how the first time you showed me the library? And well, you sneaked into the Junin part? He did. That was where that particular book he had just been reading came from. Well, I waited for a time when you would be away. And well, tried to sneak in myself. I wanted to find something on seals. And well, this cat had appeared, and I was backing away. Mind you, it scared me to hell. It even had a red ribbon on the ear, like a Devi, Tibeo. By this time she had dropped her scrolls and was waving her arms around to emphasize the point. Neji frowned. Why would she need seals? Did she want to find out more about the seal that kept the Kyuubi at bay? That would be logical. He waited for her to continue. And well, I kind of dropped inside a hidden room. No one can get in there, only me. At first I had no idea why, but then, after I read a few things on Fuinjutsu, I guessed it was a blood seal. Can you believe it? I still haven't figured out why it was my blood that opened it, but still. The room was filled with everything about seals. There were really huge scrolls. Neji was surprised, but he hid it quickly. Blood seal? That explains it. I had seen that door. So the weird black markings with chakra around them were seals. Her blood opened it. Someone from her family must have known about seals. So, you started learning Fuinjutsu. It wasn't a question. Her nod confirmed it. Neji was proud, and he showed it. He knew little about Fuinjutsu, after all, there was a seal on him. And he knew how difficult it was. She really was amazing. I know how to do simple storage seals and some exploding tags. I can even change the power and range of the explosion. And well, the copying seal too. But that's fairly new. What? Seeing his questioning gaze, she complied, looking at her feet. I know you had been there. That day I took the scroll of sealing. I only managed to take it from the shelf, 'cause my blood unlocked those blood seals protecting it. So that scroll was protected. But wasn't it written by the Yondaime? Well, then I kind of recognized the handwriting in the scroll. I was really surprised there, Ibeo. Neji recalled the expression on her face when she had opened the scroll. Interesting. It was the same as the one in the notebook I found. Wait, I'll show you. She dropped the scrolls on the bed and dug a small, battered notebook from under her pillow. Neji was amused. Only she would think of hiding important things there. She really was something. Naruto opened it at a random page, and brought it right in front of Neji's face. After backing away slightly, he took in the handwriting. It was a very elegant script, clearly belonging to someone who was very good in calligraphy. It's girly, isn't it? Naruto laughed. Neji felt his eye twitch again. That was piece of fine work. She wouldn't understand the beauty and the excessive charm the handwriting had. Well, she closed the notebook and stuffed it back where it was hidden. Neji thought he caught something green under the pillow. And then Iruka-sensei said that it belonged to the Yondaime. That means that the notebook was his, Ibeo. Who would have thought he had such a girly handwriting? He. Neji sat on the floor, eyes closed. Fuinjutsu is incredibly difficult and not many manage as much as you can now. I am proud of you. He opened one eye to see her blushing in embarrassment. A smirk appeared on his face. But I do understand why. In a few years it might be crucial for you to know about the seal containing the Kyuubi. So, Chato Mat, who said Tat was the reason I wanted to learn Fuinjutsu in the first place, came an angry voice. Perplexed, the Hyuga boy opened his eyes. Naruto was glaring at him, hands on her hips. That's not the reason? Why then? I did it so I can take that stupid seal off you. Or at least change its properties or something, Datbeo. And you're called a genius? Peef. With the she turned around, gathering all the scrolls and dumping them in a pile in the corner. Neji was stunned. This was, could she really do it? For him? But why? His heart filled with warmth he was sure had nothing to do with the temperature. He smiled. The blonde, however, missed it. When she had turned around, Neji was already on his feet, the calm, indifferent look back on his face. You should get some sleep. Hi, Wakata, Datbeo. Quote, she was still full of energy. Neji walked across the room and opened the window. Before leaving, he turned to utter a small, arigato. With a blink, he vanished. A smile started slowly appearing on Naruto's face. It turned into a full-blown grin in seconds. She jumped on the bed, hugging her Gamma plushie to death. Hyuga Hiyashi by no means was a cruel man. Circumstances just tended to make one do and say things that will be regretted later. The day his beloved wife died, giving birth to his second child, he had cried. It was then that the changes started. He could no longer look at his eldest daughter. She looked so much like her mother, he couldn't bear looking at her. He would always be reminded of the hole in his chest, one that would never heal. He started ignoring her, in the favor of Hanbi. His youngest daughter was his copy, and it was much easier for him. He oversaw their training. He knew Hinata wasn't weak. She was just compassionate, and couldn't bring herself to hurt others, especially Hanabi, when they sparred. So much like her. It pained him, and he failed to realize how much he was hurting his own daughter, by trying to run away from the pain himself. He knew she cried at night, but no matter what, he still couldn't bring himself to acknowledge her strength. It was much too soon, the wound was still fresh. The day his brother died, for the clan, for him and for his freedom, he knew things wouldn't be the same. This was his second failure. He, as clan head and as a member of family, should have protected Hisashi. But his Inoue had already decided on his path. Hisashi wouldn't change it, but things were far from good. Neji, his nephew, had started to hate him, the main family and Hinata with a passion. And Hisashi couldn't bring himself to talk to the boy, explain his father's wishes to him. That was his third failure. He had vowed to correct them. But every time he tried to, something held him. Hyuga Hisashi was not cruel, he was a coward and he knew it. Why else would he fear to face his own flesh and blood? But things had changed, when one day, Neji himself had come to him. And of all the reasons, it was to talk about his father. To say Hisashi was surprised, would be an understatement. He had welcomed this chance to redeem himself. He had told the boy everything, apologized, then given him the last letter Hisashi Hyuga had written. He had seen the boy cry. And those tears warmed his heart. He felt lighter than he had been in many years. It seemed like some of the burden bearing him down was taken off his shoulders. He was not a stupid man. Neji was only 12 when they had the talk, but from the way he had expressed himself, it was easy to come to a conclusion. Someone had talked to the boy and made him see. And Hisashi was forever grateful to that person, whoever he or she was. From that day, he kept an eye on the boy. A few weeks later, he was once again rewarded with a surprise. Neji had asked him about Uzumaki Naruto. He knew that the nostalgia had made itself known on his face then. Minato was his friend and his brother's teammate after all. And they all knew and loved the tomboyish redhead. It was ironic how much their child took after one parent in looks and personality after the other. It was then that realization had hit him. The one who helped Neji was Naruto, the Jinchuriki, scorned by all the villagers. If Neji was asking about her now, that meant that they were close. So close that the Hyuga genius had noticed some small facts, like the usual glares and the whispers. And he had smiled, in a very long time. Maybe, this was the change that was bound to happen? So here he was, observing the boy, who was running fast through the sidewalks of the compound, frowning. Even from the distance, Hisashi could distinguish the expression on his face, and the faint disbelief in his eyes. He sighed, lowering his head. He would have to leave the boy at his means. He was 13 now, a shinobi. And he had made it clear to the boy that if anything bothered him, he was free to ask him. Neji was strong, and he knew the boy would deal with what was bothering him. He himself, however, had a job to do. It was finally time to have a talk with Hinata. He knew he couldn't delay it any longer. Neji slammed the door behind him. Taking off his sandals almost roughly, he stepped into his home. The room was in traditional Hyuga style, with sliding doors dividing the kitchen and the bedroom. He had requested it himself, after his father had died. He had no intention of dining with the family. He really was glad that Hisashi-sama had granted him the request. Running a hand through his hair once, Neji went to the low table at the back. It had several shelves under it, hidden from normal eye. The boy opened the first and looked inside. After rummaging through the mess that was scrolls, brushes, some wooden carved stuff, he found what he was looking for. It was an old picture of a genin team, like the one Team Guy had taken. He took the picture and sat on the bed. He preferred them to futons. There was a man, with spiky white hair and twin bangs going down his face. What was peculiar about him were the red marks, obviously drawn, that went down from his eyes. This man was Jiraiya, one of the legendary Sennin. He and a small blonde boy were staring at the camera, both smiling. The Sennin was ruffling the boy's hair. Next to them stood a girl, her hair tied in a weird spiky way. She was staring away from the camera. The boy beside her, his long brown hair loosely tied at the end, was staring at the blonde boy, one eye twitching. Jiraiya's other hand was on his shoulder. Neji focused on the small note written in the corner of the photograph. It was the same, as Naruto had put it, girly handwriting. Since your copy of the picture has died, I took it as my own personal job to deliver a new one to you. Don't you dare throw it away again, Hisashi. Sincerely yours, Namikiya's Minato, future Hokage. Neji snorted and stared at the blonde boy in wonder. This man became the Yondaime Hokage. His eyes lingered on the spiky mob of hair, to the bright blue eyes. The shape of the eye is different. But everything else. After Naruto had told I am about the blood seal, he had already made assumptions. His theory grew as she told him of the handwriting and that it belonged to the Yondaime. His father always told Neji stories of his genin days. From what Neji could gather, Minato Namikaze was a very noble man. It was only understandable that he wouldn't ask any other family to sacrifice their child. He would use his. The question was, why? Where did the Kyuubi come from in the first place? Well, he seemed to have a small surprise for Naruto too. If she was planning to rid him of the caged bird seal, he will unravel the truth behind her heritage, and the mystery of the Kyuubi. It was a promise of a lifetime. His eyes widened as the picture slipped away. Great, now I even sound like that Uzumaki. Come to think of it, where did that surname come from? And those whisker marks. That's a strange birthmark indeed. And the small passage from the book, it kept bugging him. Some of the phrases crossing his mind now and then. Hitaki Kakashi. That silver-haired weird Junin who played Jan-Ken-Pon with Gai-sensei, Sharingan no Kakashi. Did he have it some way? The eye he covered? How then? The massacre? Not possible. The book said he acquired it after the fight at the bridge. And the Uchiha had died. Maybe it's his eye? And the Yondaime? No information regarding his family can be disclosed, so Naruto really was his daughter. And if people knew, they would panic. The civilians that hate her and adore the fourth. A snort escaped him as he lay on the bed, hand over his eyes. If Yu knew she existed, there would be assassination attempts. Plus the Kyuubi, surely there will be people who would want such power. She need to be stronger. This is getting more complicated. Uzumaki Naruto, just why do you, of all people, have to be in such danger? He tried to squish the worry in his heart as he slowly drifted off to sleep. The blonde whiskered girl seemed to have followed him into the world of dreams again. Running as fast as she could, and nearly knocking down Konohamaru along the way, Gomenasai, Tt Ibeo. I am late. Boss. I chow. Hey, she ran away. She pelted through the rooftops towards the academy. She arrived to be greeted with a lot of noise. Exhaling loudly, she slowly made her way to the second row, where she always sat. Her path was blocked by a tall, lean pineapple-haired boy. Naruto, what are you doing here? This place is for the ones who graduated. He stifled a yawn. Naruto grinned widely and started boasting. See this, Shika, her thumb touched her Hite 8. I graduated, that's why I'm here, Tt Ibeo. Troublesome. Ignoring him, and his curious gaze, she quickly sat on her seat, not noticing the Uchiha beside her. Naruto was in such a hurry not to be late, that she left the apartment disheveled. And now, while she had time, she decided it was okay to fix some stuff. Uchiha Sasuke was annoyed. Everyone was making so much noise. He closed his eyes and rested his head on his hands, thinking of his brother. His thoughts were cut halfway when he heard a very familiar voice. He turned. It was Naruto, and she was showing off her hiat to Shikamaru Nara. Who would have thought that the Dobi will graduate? He felt a pang of annoyance when she didn't even notice him. He was an Uchiha. All girls threw themselves on him except her. What was wrong with her? His anger subdued as he watched her smooth out the wrinkles on her jacket, grumbling something about stupid alarm clocks that never work. He felt a blush spreading across his face when he watched her untie her hair. Huh? The Dobi has long hair? Naruto quickly tied her hair in a loose knot. She had promised not to hide her hair to Neji, but he never said not to gather it in buns, Tt Ibeo. Hearing a grunt, she turned her head. Teme, you were here? For the first time in all the years they studied together, Uchiha Sasuke didn't insult her back. He was just staring at her, his pale cheeks tingled with pink and eyes showing complete disbelief. There was a loud bang. Everyone's attention went to the door. I made it first. No, my foot is closer than yours, Inobuta. Billboard brow. It was then that they noticed their Sasuke-kun. The daily chaos began. Naruto tuned it out and focused on her hair. The small, low ponytail she had made and twisted around reached her shoulder, and half of her hair covered her face when she turned. This would take some getting used to. She failed to notice that 4 people were staring at her. Uchiha Sasuke, who was still blushing, tried to make himself look away. Didn't work. His eyes unintentionally found the blonde girl again and again. He had no idea she was so cute. A smirk appeared on his face. Maybe, after he had dealt with Itachi, he would get Naruto to be the mother of his future children? He didn't know that a feral smirk had appeared on his face, or that his eyes had glowed red for a second. The eye hidden behind a painting, however, noticed. I will have to keep a close eye on him. Aburame Shino was always quiet. He never liked talking much, and when he did, he stated only the facts. He knew many didn't like him and even feared him because of his bloodline, but he never cared. He always watched from the sidelines. He observed. In that sense, he could rival the Nara boy, who always gave off a lazy facade, but in reality was very smart. And Shino noticed things. He even made his bugs do some reconnaissance. He knew why the Uzumaki girl was feared, and he never held it against her. She was just a baby at that time. When he had seen her with baggy clothes and hair tied like a boy's, he thought if she had intentionally done that, out of fear. But how would she know of the dangers? Maybe it was gut instinct then. But he knew that the day she got out of her protective shell, she will have many suitors. And this was what was happening now. She had only let her hair down and tied it. Uchiha was already entranced. Shino could see that he was already planning to use the Giller as breeding stock. He knew he wouldn't let that happen, even if he wasn't close to the blonde. Shikamaru Nara was always curious about the whiskered girl. He noticed things, and when he mentioned them to his father, he would shrug them off, but always say that he should be friends with her. He, Choji, Naruto and Kiba were a special gang. At least, skiving off lessons was one of the main things they did. And now, knowing that she had somehow graduated made him smile. This was the Naruto they always knew and wanted to see. He nudged Choji, who was eating chips beside him. They both stared at the girl. She was fumbling with her hair, oblivious to everything. "Look at Sasuke," muttered the Nara boy. Choji stared at him. His eyes hardened. His gaze met his best friend's. No words were needed. They both agreed then and there to protect their blonde friend from the Uchiha. At least, until the time when he will understand that love can't be forced, and he couldn't force Uzumaki Naruto. Hinata smiled widely, a light blush covering her face. Her idol was very beautiful. She learned from her, and she was happy that finally Naruto was showing some of what was hidden. She eyed Kiba. The boy was already drooling openly. And Sasuke. Dachi didn't like that look on his face. She frowned. Ino and Sakura were yelling, as usual. Naruto covered her ears. "Will you guys just shut up?" Quote. They quieted down. "I don't even get what you guys see in him." She jumped on her desk, facing the Uchiha boy. To her slight surprise, he wasn't glaring. He was blushing? What the hell? She felt someone hit her from the back. Losing her balance, she fell forward. Crash. Something was off. Sasuke was right in front of her. If she was falling forward, she should have. Oh heck no. Ibeo. But she was currently sprawled on the floor. Her head hurt. Itai. She turned her head. There was Sasuke, glaring daggers at her, as though accusing that the kiss didn't happen. A hand helped her up. She turned her head to see it was Shikamaru. Eyes narrowed at the Uchiha, and Choji standing beside him, hands balled into fists. "Mendoku's, Naruto, do you have any idea how troublesome this is?" Said girl rolled her eyes, and playfully hit his arm, flashing them both a grateful smile. They had saved her first kiss from being stolen, Ibeo. What would Neji say if, wait, why am I thinking of that Hyuga bastard again?
That's all for now. If you want to see next part, then please like this video and subscribe my channel. Thank you.